My name is Sarah Beth Knightley. I'm serving as the State Counsel of the Department of Commerce and Insurance. Today I'm moderating this rulemaking hearing on the Firefighting Commission. Mr. Director, please introduce yourself and call the roll.
I'm Executive Director Eric Barlow. Commissioner Brent Ham here. Commissioner Whitwright.
Here.
Commissioner Cobb here. Commissioner Green here. Commissioner Henry. Commissioner Moore here. Vice Chairman Scott here. Commissioner Solomon here. Chairman Windrow here. And our non-voting members, Executive Director Sparks here. Commissioner Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Would the staff of the Firefighting Commission who are present please introduce themselves? Ms. Costin.
Laura Costin, Administrative Director and Accreditation Manager.
Stephen Morrell, East Tennessee Regional Coordinator. Joshua Haldeman, West Tennessee Regional Coordinator.
Are there any other? Today is Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. We are at the Doubletree Hotel. The hour is 01 a.m. Eastern. I will go through the script today, and then we will open the floor for commission discussion, and then for public comment. After that, the commission will vote to move the rules forward, and we will end the rule. This rulemaking hearing is to be conducted pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated 45202 and 45203. The purpose of this rulemaking hearing is to solicit comments on the proposed amendments to the rules under Chapter 0360/06/01 miscellaneous certification standards and 0360/07/01 educational incentive. The proposed amendments were developed by the commission based on the following statutes, a review of the existing rules, input from the deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, and director, input from the governor's office, and legal counsel. Please note that copies of the redline version of the rulemaking notice, which delineates the proposed amendments, are available at the entrance to the conference room. Members of the public who would like to speak during the hearing and comment on the proposed rules should sign up on the sheets provided. Only those who have signed up will be permitted to speak. We will gather that list in a few minutes, and I will call the names on that list. I ask that you please print when signing up so that I can read the names on the list. The notice of rulemaking hearing was filed with the Secretary of State on March 4th, 2026, and published on the Administrative Register of the Secretary of State's website. Tennessee Code Annotated 424-107 authorizes the Firefighting Commission, which is housed in the Department of Commerce and Insurance, to adopt rules. Tennessee Code Annotated 45204, Section A4, requires the department to present a summary of the factual information on which the proposal is based. That summary is as follows. For Chapter 0360/06/01 miscellaneous certification standards, 0.01 adoption by reference. The changes made to this subsection are to remain current with the most current NFPA standards. 0.04 has been repealed. This rule package repeals this section, currently labeled as progression, taking away the 30-day waiting period currently required for certification testing. 0.05 reciprocity. This proposal removes the 60-month break-in service requirement for reciprocity. For Chapter 0360/07/01 educational incentive pay, subsection 0.01 minimum standards. This rule change will remove some of the eligibility requirements behind educational incentive pay. For subsection 0.02 firefighter eligibility, these are clerical updates to the subsection. For subsection 0.04 entry-level personnel, this rule defines the standards for volunteer educational incentive pay based on the minimum basic standard in the Tennessee Code Annotated 424-112A and C. The changes to the rule also simplify the process and explain the non-suppression pathways to educational incentive pay to align with Tennessee Code Annotated 68-120-113 .05 requirements for in-service training. This rule removes the requirement to resubmit annual training programs to the Commission for incentive pay approval. It clarifies the requirements for in-service training and service instructors, and clarifies the eligibility for instructors to receive in-service credit at training events. The rule also clarifies the record storage and submission requirements for in-service training documentation. .06 payment procedures. This rule removes the requirement to pre-submit annual training programs to the Commission for incentive pay approval. This rule also clears up the payment procedures for how and to whom EIP and VEIP funds shall be paid out. .07 waiver. The changes in this rule clarify whether and when EIP and VEIP waivers shall be considered. .08 audit. This rule will clarify in-service documentation storage requirements and removes the audit options relating to commissioners or commission staff auditing annual training programs to the Commission for incentive pay approval. Regulatory flexibility analysis and economic impact statements are required for any rule that may have an impact on small business. These rules do not have an impact on small business. Tennessee Code Annotated 45228 requires that any rule proposed to be promulgated shall state in a simple and declarative sentence without additional comments on the merits of the policy of the rules or regulation, whether the rule or regulation may have a projected financial impact on local governments. The rule amendments will not have a projected financial impact on local governments. Director Barlow, have you received any written comments about the rules?
No.
No, I don't. The written comment period will remain open for 7 days after this rulemaking period, and comments can be directed to myself, the Director Barlow. Commissioners, if you have comments at this time, please state your name for the record and reference specifically which rule you would like to discuss.
Commissioner Scott. Want to talk about Rule 360-07-01-.01 under minimum standards. Specifically, item B, where we talk about be a citizen of the United States. I received comment from some of our customers where maybe we need to add or be legally authorized to work in the United States at the end of be a citizen.
The other commissioners have it in comments related.
And where that comes from is we have, as some may know, some may not know, the process in order to become a citizen in the United States can be a very lengthy process. I myself can speak to that as I wasn't born a citizen. I was born in Scotland, and the amount of time it took for me to get my citizenship in this country was almost 4 years. I went to school here. I grew up here. I've been here since I was 2 weeks old. And it was still such a lengthy process for me, even though I spent 19 years in this country prior to getting my US citizenship. People in the fire service today in Tennessee that are going through that process, they're also going through the training. They're here illegally. They're here on a work visa as they're working towards their citizenship. And we're not giving them the opportunity to be able to partake in the program because of this.
Chairman Woodrow, before we get too far, how does 424-107, because we can't amend a law. I want to be careful what we have to cross-reference. I'm thinking to 424. I think it's chapter 107.
Are you thinking about Title 68?
Maybe it's, I'm not saying it's there, but we ordered this rule and it's in law, they touch it.
So the commission statute is under Title 4. 112 is the 426.
This one is.
Executive Director Barlow, I'm not referencing that, Chairman, with the PCA, however, 424-205 does state the commission is empowered to establish minimum employment and training standards for firefighters or to be eligible for education. That's the one thing I see.
This is Associate Councilman City. I think you guys can vote how you want to vote, and then if it ends up being in conflict with the statute, just have your position to put it back out. If that's what you guys do, want to steer your vote on that.
Commissioner Scott, would we be able to make that motion currently while we're reviewing, or as a case by case, how do you want this to proceed?
Certainly, so this is the time for the commission to discuss, make motions they want to make, before we open the public. So any motions or any discussion to be had about these rules now is still.
Commissioner Scott, I make a motion to add to Rule 360-07-01-0.01 minimum standards at the end of subsection B, where it states be citizen of the United States. I want to add the language or be legally authorized to work in the United States.
Chairman Woodruff,
Proper motion second. Any further discussion on that correction? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it.
pending legal review that we changed. Do any other commissioners have comments on the rule that are presented?
Commissioner Scott, I actually have a couple. The next one concerns rule number 360-07-01-0.04 under entry-level personnel. Number 1, the volunteer firefighter must be compliant with minimum basic standard training pursuant to TCA 4-24-112 subsection A and C by the end of the calendar year in which the volunteer reaches the firefighter's 36-month service with a recognized fire department or proof of certification for firefighter 1 or above. The note I have here the firefighter must have previously completed or must complete after joining the fire department a minimum of 16 hours of initial training developed by the Tennessee Fire Service and Codes Academy in firefighting procedures and techniques or complete equivalent training approved. And want to clarify this a little bit. If we add subsection 2 in that TCA, it's going to make things a little bit clearer for the exemption on firefighters who joined prior to 2009 is VIP participation, because I think we're experiencing something in that right now as far as volunteers go.
Executive Director Barlow. The issue is the program has different requirements than the minimum requirements per statute to be a firefighter. The program requirements as listed in 360.07.04.04 entry level personnel. It incentivizes the progression of certifications to firefighter 1. The issue that we're having is that we have primarily volunteer firefighters that have been volunteers for years that completed the minimum training requirements of their time. While the statute may grant them the exemption for having to go through today's 16-hour or 64-hour courses, it doesn't, our program rules do not give them an exemption for the firefighter 1. So these folks have never progressed and completed firefighter 1. And so per the legal counsel that we have received, we are unable to approve them as being eligible for the program due to the fact they never progressed. They're getting firefighter 1 certification either.
So where our problem lies now, though, is if we have an active volunteer for a department that's been there for 30 years with no gap in service, they're 60+ years old at this point. And we even discussed this during the rules subcommittee where we knew we were going to have a small handful of people that this was still going to affect because as we were moving through these things. But the fact is, we still have firefighters today that have been very active in their departments, still running calls. And we can't expect them to go through the live burn today. They may just drive trucks. And we talked about the service personnel. And matter of fact, I believe there's an exemption in there for that as well. But when we looked at these rules to streamline them and we wanted to make every firefighter in the state eligible to be able to attain this, we don't want to single out those that have already been those volunteers or those firefighters in the service that's still doing this day in and day out. We don't want to exempt them because maybe physical limitations that this is having to go and do this.
So if we change this proposed red line to read 4-24-112 A through C instead of A and C, that would capture that Part D exemption.
If we added 2,
The number 2.
yes.
Vice Chairman Scott, this is Executive Director. I think it's important to note that these individuals that you're talking about, we have validated that they completed the minimum training requirements or the equivalency of today's minimum training requirements. We have been able to that key issue that's not addressed to the certification of firefighter 1. So as you stated, there's a lot of variables that come into play. However, they are still active in their departments, inactive since they initially entered service participate within.
Understood, but we're still gonna come back and see this time and time again over the years. So let's take care of it right now, why we have this debate.
If you could just point me specifically to what in the statute you're referencing, is the number, thing the number 2.
No, this needs to be A, B, and C, like you said.
I think A through C is it.
It's not A and C. Because it's covered by B.
That was my reading.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to do that, we'll just.
Commissioner Scott, I make a motion that we clarify this to
It's right for some bullshit.
for rule number 360-07-01-0.04. Under 1, that we include, when we reference TCA, that we add A through C for TCA code 4-24-112.
I'll second that. Commissioner Winter, seconds. Executive Director Barlow, can you repeat the TCA? 424-112. I don't know why we did that, because it's ABC. It's a long process. Any further discussion on this item? Any further discussion? Again, we're talking, and they've had to be in 20 years. It's gonna be but you don't want to cut anybody out. Unintended consequences. Because they could be great driver uncle. Executive Director Barlow, would it be? Are we able to make this date retroactive? With this update?
Anybody who had, just under the way it works, anybody who was not eligible during this fiscal year payment period payouts, would become re-eligible for future years, but we can't go back and pay people who fell eligible years.
Unless we do that during the commission meetings this week. As a waiver.
Biggest waiver.
So under the rules, we included like people who didn't turn in the right answer or roster and got so many days of the commission. But there's not a current way under the rules to go back a fiscal year and pay people. So they say this rule gets approved the way we hope it will, and next year everybody gets paid under these rules. We still couldn't go back and say, hey, we feel bad that our rules were different last year, so here's the money.
Executive Director Barlow, for the purpose of proceeding forward with this motion, I think it's important to note that during the business meeting, one of my agenda items is a request for 2 individuals for review as the commissioners to vote, specifically for these 2 individuals that fall into the scenario for allocating this year. There's no further discussion. All those in favor of this amendment say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it.
Commissioner Scott one more time. Rule number 360-07-01-0.04, entry level personnel. Item number 3. Individuals hired into the fire department as fire safety inspectors, fire investigators, or public and fire life safety educators after December 31st, 1990, who are not trained in this profession may meet the requirements of this section through certification. When we talk about volunteer departments, volunteers are not hired. They're either accepted or appointed to the departments. And I would like to add into the language, individuals hired or accepted into a fire department as fire safety inspectors, fire investigators, or public fire and life safety educators. Scratch the 1990 date who are not trained in fire suppression may meet the requirements of this section through certification. So I'm gonna put that in the form of a motion to add that language of or accepted, and also strike after the December 31st, 1990 date.
Commissioner Green, I'll second that.
Chairman, the only problem I see is you strike that, but then you cannot functions under state fire marshal authority, except if you're in compliance with TCA 68-112-130. I mean, for every action, there's an equal officer reaction. You still have to become certified to be able to perform those functions. Or you would fall under the governor's authority. And I can't imagine how many, gonna be a smaller number of volunteer for, might have a public education officer.
Commissioner Scott, the point is, they still would have to go through all of that. But just adding the language of individuals hired or accepted for a department. So it's not that we're taking, or we're looking at eliminating them having to do any certifications, it's just cleaning up some verbiage, because like I said, for a volunteer department, well, yeah, for a volunteer department, they're not hired as a volunteer. They're either appointed or accepted into that department.
We have a proper motion, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of this addition, say aye.
I,
Any opposed, say no. Guys have it.
and then I just have one last one, which is kind of still out there, but it's gonna be under Rule 360-07-01-0.05, requirements for in-service training. Under subtitle C, classes taught by Tennessee Emergency Management TEMA, Cal County Fire and Service Training. For those that don't know, there is a bill waiting to be signed currently coming out of the governor's office that actually changes the name of TEMA to the Tennessee Emergency Management Authority. And so I think we may need to look at cleaning that verbiage.
What?
It's still TEMA, but it's now Tennessee Emergency Management Authority because they have authority.
Commissioner. Okay,
They're going to be pulled out of the Department of Military and created as their own department.
If that does end up being structured as a vote, can we just caveat it as if pending such a bill, just in case?
it's in the governor's office. I think he initiated it, so he's probably gonna sign.
Okay, I just want to make sure we don't predate the signing bill on accident. On page 12 of
Make sure you spell it right.
just for the record, we're looking at page 12 of the red line, rule 0360-0701.05, requires for in-service training, paragraph 10.
So I make a motion pending the signing of the governor's legislation to change the name of the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to Tennessee Emergency Management Authority.
Hold on a second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. So. Any other commissioner have anything on their list? Commissioners. Okay.
Are there any further comments by the commission on the rulemaking package for this? All right, we're ready for public comments. Director Costin, Assistant Director Costin, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, I have two.
All right, we will now provide an opportunity for public comments. If you wish to speak and have not signed up, please do so now. And then the first person for public comment, may support. Just please introduce yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Patrick Moore. I'm the Chief of Special Operations at Rural Metro Knox. I'm an import, so I may be out of order and procedure, but I wanted to come in, ask a question and pose some progress. The NFPA standards for technical rescue 1006 identifies, and actually in the new version, I think it goes to 14 disciplines, but it's commonly referred to as 6 disciplines. Can I get an update as to where we're at with that moving forward? For those couple of people I know in the room, is I spent 25 years as staff at the Pennsylvania State Fire Academy. My entire career, we never didn't have those, and just wondering where we're at with that. If I'm out of order in reference to my public comment, I'll be happy to come at another time.
Certainly. So there is a work session after this to discuss anything like that we need to start working forward on future rulemaking and things like that. Currently in this rule package, where have it as a 2021 edition, and the commission is always working on the next rulemaking. So if you have time to stick around today and chat about it, we'd like to.
So that's today.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right. And who is next for the public?
Chief Norris. Oh, okay, that's it. You already answered his question.
Are there any more public comments on the rulemaking hearing for 7 of the 2019? Right. After adoption of the rules by the commissioner, and the commission, the rules will be forwarded to the Attorney General's office for review. After approval by the Attorney General, the rules will be filed with the Secretary of State, who is responsible for publishing the adopted rules, and the Joint Government Operations Committee of the General Assembly. The rules will become effective 90 days after being filed with the Secretary of State's office. Comments will be accepted for 1 week, 7 days following this hearing. The comment period will close 5 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. If the commission could just vote to move this rulemaking process forward, we can conclude the current rulemaking.
Make a motion to move this rule package forward. I make a motion to move this rule package forward in the process. Commissioner Wendron.
Commissioner Green, second that motion.
Any further discussion from the commission? All those in favor then say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it.
All right, the rulemaking hearing is now concluded. We can have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, by Commissioner Scott.
We will reconvene in 15 minutes for the work session. Work session. Having have 8 commission members present, we have a quorum to discuss. Conduct this work session. Looking at tomorrow's agenda. Look at the volunteers, and as soon as we declare the pledge, I'm just going to get this out of the way.
I'll do the pledge.
Of course. We have one housekeeping note to add the Under the minutes, the approval of the March 2026 meetings. It's in your packet, but it wasn't on the agenda. So we're gonna add that for a vote tomorrow.
Is tomorrow, like tomorrow, if somebody can just do the whole thing morning.
We do have some guests with us today, and hope to know the actual voting is tomorrow. Okay, I think we sit here 2 days. I mean, we're so excited. I get it. You're spellbound to be here. Luckily, it's not like, there are worse places you could go, right? So do you all have something you want to share today as well? Which is appropriate. Ready to do that?
Well, good morning. Thank you, Chairman Windrow, members of the commission, Executive Director Barlow. I'm Chris Whaley, President of Roan State Community College. We are here to seek approval for hazardous materials awareness, hazardous materials ops, Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 as academic courses at Roan State Community College. We believe really strongly in workforce preparedness. In fact, that's why we believe we exist. And if you look at the list of our current programs, you'll see, for instance, 22 health science programs, including EMT, AMT, paramedic, nursing. You'll see, because have a campus there in Oak Ridge, you'll see nuclear tech, chemical operator, et cetera. So we believe that our role is to go out into our region and find out where there are workforce needs and then see if there are opportunities for us to meet those. Our original journey started with our desire to begin an AAS program in fire science, which we still are going to implement in the fall. But as we sought expertise out in our communities, City of Oak Ridge Fire Department, City of Alcoa, Rockwood, all the many volunteer fire departments, there was a real interest in Firefighter 1 and 2, which we had not originally considered. And so we sort of backed up a little bit and are hoping, again, pending approval, that this fall we will start both that AAS program for those who seek advancement, supervision opportunities, et cetera, as well as Firefighter 1 and 2. And we can only do that because of the strong partnership with those aforementioned fire departments and many others who are going to provide practical opportunities for burn experiences, equipment, et cetera, et cetera. This is really important to us. We understand the gravity of it, but we feel like our role is to step into places where the workforce pipeline needs additional workers, needs additional whatever, and we strongly desire to fill that role. This is unique for us in many ways. I've got a team here of several members of our academic team, Dr. Ward, Dr. Esquivel, Dr. Deasy, and Professor Johnny Jones. Usually, I will tell you, and I promise to be brief, when we set up new programs, I'll take nuclear technology in Oak Ridge. Normally, we don't have a content expert. We have to depend on Oak Ridge National Lab, we have to depend on Y12 or one of our other great partners to bring that expert in-house. This time we've got in-house expertise. Professor Jones, in addition to his other teaching duties at Roan State, which we've enjoyed having him for many years, is also a firefighter, and he will take over as our program director for this new endeavor. So we're glad to answer any questions whenever those are appropriate, but we are here to serve. We're very passionate about this opportunity, and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we appreciate it because obviously in Middle Tennessee, we've had, all states had it for a long time. Columbia State tried, probably had the wrong launch, but people are starting to see the value, and Williamson County is actually bringing their vocational instructional program back. 5 programs starting this next year, building a building for it. And firefighting is one. Franklin Fire pushed them to. So the application period is open for the fall of this year, and they they only have 12 seats and they require 48 applications. So, there is a need for the fire service, and for all VOTECs, construction work that people can make a good living. True college is not for everybody. Great, we appreciate y'all's work and Chief Solomon and the people in this end of the state, getting this program. There's not enough. I think Memphis State has one, if my memory's correct, or they did, or they don't.
They're talking about
Bring
putting one
it
back.
back in, yeah, it's just not out there. So appreciate it. And are we voting on this tomorrow? I knew it was on here, I just, sometimes people pull things, sometimes people add things. Now, well, all your students will be of age, it's not like, we have several high school programs running around the state now too, but you have to be 18 actually to be certified. These students all should meet that one, unless you're gonna do what we're all in high schools as well. We appreciate it. Talk to you again, we'll be here tomorrow. Won't do any of these communications today because I get to do it again, unless one of you, on this, to my right, has anything today. Save it for tomorrow. Actually, Todd sat down over there. Matthew's gonna hold the legal report till tomorrow. He might be able to hold his till tomorrow. Some things that maybe we do need to discuss for a new board director. If you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The first item I have here is, and this is just open to kind of get the conversation started, for the commission on whether or not the commission will like to pursue the board or more. Question has come up right now in our rules. We did not have a number, times that somebody can take a test. Basically, somebody can retest over and over and over. It's an unlimited amount of times. So this is something that I wanted to bring up. I don't know, I'm agnostic to it either way. However, there have been some feedback we have received with regard to it. So we wanted to bring it up as something that the commission. This for the commission's update. Reciprocity stats, it's the last commission. 266 certs that were issued and 54 that were denied. HMA, HMO pass rates. So HMA currently, it is 52% pass rate for HMA, 48% failure rate, and HMO is 66% pass rate and 34% failure. A couple of notes I have in regards to those. If you look at the data dating back to February this year, there has been an increase in testing since February. The numbers, the amount of folks that are pursuing those certifications via testing has tripled. Additionally, just a note here, the ERGs, so we pulled the ERGs on February 19th. We reinstated them on March 31st. When you look at April 1st, whenever I pulled these numbers, it's Friday, that the pass failure rates haven't changed. But even with the introduction. Since I am on the topic, I think it's important for me to say my piece on this. Listen, I think it's my intentions with that move were good, but where I screwed up was the way that I wrote it out. I recognize that. I should have worked that through the fire service a little bit more. I should have had conversations ahead of time, and I acknowledge that. And so that's the reason what led to us reinstating that in the calculator. We do have a plan moving forward. We have met with Director Sparks and his team down at feedback. And what we'd like to do is between now and the next commission meeting, we have a couple of work sessions with him and his cadre. And we are going to try to develop HMA. And in addition to HMA claims examiner, we want to go exclusively skills-based for those two certifications. Listen, I heard the feedback on HMA. I get it. The fire service in Tennessee wants firefighters to be able to use the ERG to the maximum ability as possible to get more familiar with the ERG. So if we're going to do it, hey, let's do it right. And so we're going to via accreditation that SAC and Pro Board allow us to pursue that method. So this, Director Sparks' staff down there is going to help us develop a skills test that incorporates the requisite knowledge requirements of those JPR into the requisite skill. Additionally, the reason why we want to pursue the claims examiner that way is we were recently at the IFSAC conference in Orlando, and the publishers were there. They're still, I mean, the best answer I got was a year out, I think, for it, that we got as far as them developing a test bank for those tests. I can tell you, as somebody who has claims examiners, obviously I got it when I was in the DoD, the RSAC board accredited as well. But that test was one of the easiest tests I've ever taken, because you could tell that they were very much trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel, for lack of a better way to describe it, to develop a test. But that practical exam is one of the toughest practical I've done. And so we want to go exclusively skill-based. And I think when you consider that certification holistically, there's a lot of value. So our plan is to develop this over the next couple of months and present it to the commission at next commission. Incentive pay stats, career departments. So we have 73 career departments that submitted for the incentive pay. All of them have been paid out. We have 60 combo departments, 940 career personnel, and 382 volunteer personnel submitted. 673 career firefighters have been paid out, 148 volunteer been paid out. Exclusively volunteer departments, we have 39 that have submitted and 354 have been paid. So we're still working through that. I just signed a batch this morning. So we're still getting through that. Obviously, I think it's important to note, just for everybody in attendance and everybody that's attending the WebEx, we have a very limited staff that we have to process these for the entire state. We are diligently getting through them. But as we go through, especially with the volunteers, part of the process with the volunteers is that we audit as we go along as well. So those take a little bit longer to process. And that's why we talk about careers. Incentive for the commission's awareness, you all should be tracking this. I did approve for the authority that you granted me at the Jackson meeting. I did approve 2 waivers, one by Elder Mountain and one by the Busk. Elder Mountain was 227.26 and Busk was 35.26. Both of those waiver requests fell in line with the waivers in the rules, and they were due to a change in personnel, no training officer, what have you. So it was the first year requesting as well. It wasn't a as you all know, we did approve the course request from TBI. And as I reached out, just for public knowledge, I reached out to the commissioners to request that in advance of this meeting, due to the fact that the Tennessee Advisory Committee on Arson 2026 conference was beginning today. And so they needed a course approval in advance to be able to hold their conference. One of the things I want to bring up is fire department course approvals. I know this has been a little bit of a discussion. So one of the things we recognize, at least for fire departments, is we're not trying to change the process. Right now, fire departments, from what I've been told per the commission in the past, have granted us the ability as the administrative staff to review those and approve the fire department approvals. However, the information we were receiving, just to be honest, every one of those courses were being approved and were finally being approved, in my opinion. And so what we have now started requiring from fire departments is the same thing that we require from parties. They need to provide the course correlations, the JPR correlations, to show us that the course that they want to teach in-house is meeting the requirements of the association. That's mainly the change. I think the word is getting out, and we are seeing that. Additionally, with that, based on recent events, discussion that I've had with the Pro Board, this was actually kind of one of the things that came up. We submitted our course compliance request with NFPA 1010, is that correct, Laura? NFPA 1010, and just for awareness, they did approve that last Friday. Our board approved that. However, they did have a couple of questions and so part of this was part of my answer back to them on how we work out this process. And so we are incorporating Laura into that approval process as the accreditation manager because those course approvals directly impact our accreditation. So we need to make sure that, hey, we are the commission are approving courses for departments, third parties, what have you, that they do meet the requirements set forth by the accredited entity. So, online testing update. So we have ordered 375 iPads. Everybody's awareness. I know discussion in the past was that we were going to leverage departments, training rooms, computers, what have you, to do online testing that way. As we talk this out more, we realized that presented an issue across the board now to where it minimized our ability to go out and deliver testing the way we're doing it now, right? Right now, we're able to be a written test and we're able to go essentially any department in the state that has a testing room, testing environment that's secure for us to administer these tests. And basically, it was important for us to come up with a process that was as seamless as possible to the fire service. So what we've decided to do is we with executive leadership within TDCI, their support, we were able to secure the funds to order 375 iPads to outfit each proctor with 25 iPads. And that will include then having a Wi-Fi puck. And basically the change that the fire service will see is that instead of being handed a written test, you will be handed an iPad. And then each person will have their own individual 16-digit code that the proctor will provide to them. And that person, when told by the proctor, will enter that 16-digit code and then the test will pop up. They'll take the test via that iPad. And then when they hit submit, they'll get their score right there. So I think that's a tremendous change for the fire service. I know it's something that's been in discussion for a while. It's something that's a priority of mine and a priority of executive leadership. So we're very much pursuing that. Our hope and our goal is to be able to at least have this beta completed by the end of the calendar year. But there are some issues we're running into. We're just trying to order cases for the iPads. I mean, you wouldn't believe how hard it is trying to find cases for these iPads to be able to give the proctors the ability to be mobile and not have to carry 25 iPads in their arms, right? We want to be able to protect that because this is an investment and we also want to make this a seamless on our folks as well. So as we progress through that, obviously we'll have to policy, but we just recently, for your all the commissioners' awareness, we just recently finalized our SOP for testing procedures. We will have to make an update to that once we get to that point. But basically, we'll hash out the administrative portion of it, and I think we'll get it up and running. I think overall, you all will see that this is a very positive change. Additionally, Chairman, one of the things that I wanted to note is that for tomorrow's business meeting, would like to ask the commission to make a motion to add Chief Tim Baker from Walden's Creek Fire Department and apologize to the other person. And firefighter Gary Combs from Hardin County. I can ask you all to make a motion to vote on that tomorrow during the business meeting in reference to VIP, their eligibility. And this goes in line with what we were talking about earlier with the rulemaking hearing. Both of these gentlemen have completed the minimum training requirements of their time. They have been involved in fire service since the mid and late 80s. They've been active members in their volunteer fire departments. However, they never progressed to completing firefighter 1 or higher. So the request from their departments, we presented it from the commission and ask you all to make a vote on it. As I stated in the rulemaking hearing, the intent of the rules as written now, the administrative staff cannot legally appoint. So that's why it's been requested to bring it to the commission. Commissioner or Vice Chairman Scott, do you have a question?
It was firefighter comes from Hardin County, and what was the other one?
Tim Bagger. Alden Spring. And that's for eligibility of this year.
Director, are you finished?
I am.
Commissioner Scott, I'd like to address your items piece by piece. Let's talk with number of times to retest. Over the course of 3 directors in many years, we've had this conversation on retest. We've talked about following the EMS side, 3 tests, refresher, 3 more tests, new class. As we know, the former policies of the commission are null and void. So, first question, and this is where it comes back to, is we have to have X amount of number of questions in a test bank for the versions. In policy, all commission tests were 100 questions, with the exception of hazmat awareness, which was 50. What does the test bank look like today in order to achieve the number of versions for that test? Because that's what we need to start with. How many tests can you actually create out of the test bank to give us an idea of what a retest would look like? Now, we could have a test of 10 questions. We could have a test of 50 questions. We could stay at 100. But it goes back to how many questions are available in order to create the versions.
Good.
For right now,
Then with that, would you like me to address that question?
please.
So right now we have, the goal is that we actually have 6 versions of some tests, but we're trying to scale that back to 2 versions of each test. The reason why the more versions you have, what we have found is that whenever I look at these 6 versions, the way it is you have a test 1 and a test 2. And then you have 3 versions of test 1 and 3 versions of test 2. The more versions you have, the more inconsistency you have across the board. Basically right now, to kind of, I guess, prove the point of the feedback that I've been receiving is we have unlimited retesting now. So how do we have, what would be the number of tests we would have to have for unlimited testing?
That's the question.
I don't know, right? I don't think anybody can answer that question. Basically, whenever folks are testing now, they bounce from version to version, right? And there's some folks that are on their 5th, 6th tests and they still haven't passed, right? And they've seen those versions. I don't know what the root cause is there either, right? Is it studying, right? Is it something else? And so basically, Commissioner Scott, to answer your question, if the commission decided to codify a number to mirror like what you said with National Registry, right? Then I think that would provide us the information needed to be able to determine how many versions of tests we do need, right? Right now, you can't answer that question. Right now, we know what accreditation requires out of us, right? We have to have multiple versions. What I will say is that when we go to online testing, that will improve. The online testing, we have provided I think triple amount of the test questions for each test. And what will happen is every time there's a test, they will be randomized from that overall testing, right?
I was gonna get to this with the online testing portion, but since you brought it up, is it gonna be adaptive testing on the online, or is it gonna be? Okay, all right. That answered that one. Right. So back to the number of times to retest. Well, let's get back to the number of test questions. If we went to a 50-question test on all testing, that would give us enough ample opportunity to have a decent number of test banks for versions. And where I'm going with this is if we said that we follow the National Registry curriculum or not curriculum, but their standard of 3 tests, which would be if we did 50 questions each, that's, 150 questions that they've already tested. Now they're gonna do a refresher. And then they'll have 3 more opportunities, so a total of 300 questions that they'll have an opportunity to pass this certification before having to retake the class, actually reading the book at this point. What's that gonna look like for our customers though? For
From training officers point. Cause I was in a program, you got 2 tests and you start graduate school over, so that wasn't fun at all. But if you, back to test banks, some were smaller books, I mean, to get questions.
Fire Officer 4 has like 97 total questions, something like that.
Yeah, and if you drop it to 50, if they miss 15 questions, they fail the test, because our basement's still 70. They have to make the 70 in the accreditation standard. So every action's got a consequence here, unintended consequence. And do you tell a firefighter 3 times and you start the class over? Our chiefs might lose their minds, but you haven't passed it in 3 times. I don't know. But what is it, 3 and T, 3, and then you gotta do a refresher. The other problem we didn't even mention yet, there are no refresher classes out there.
You would have to go through the course again. That
Yeah.
would be the refresher.
Yeah, because at least in EMS, there is a refresher, 40 hours, whatever it is. I don't know in post how their refreshers are. I usually just can.
Well, yeah, you just, if it, if you fail academically, you have to come back and refile.
And do a new academy. Because you'd have to develop, we have what? Let's just say we have 30 certifications, you need 30 refresher classes. So who would develop? Another niche here,
My
for somebody
experience,
to get rich.
my experience with the National Registry is that after 3 tests, you go back to the course. It's not a refresher, you go back to the course.
No, it's an intro. And then it's after.
Class.
Now, I'm not saying we should go this route. I was obligated to bring in front of the commission for the requests I received. However, if we went that route, yes, you would have to develop a refresher, or you could say after 3 tests, you go back to the course. And that's your refresher, and then after 3 additional chances, if you haven't passed by then, you can leave it to the commission to decide whether or not they proceed forward. Yeah. Now, you're right, Chairman Windrow. I mean, that will put folks in a tough position. And what I will say is that our current test banks, listen, we have realized that we need to make improvements. And so we're very much leveraging the online testing. We have to provide online test banks to CADIS. And Laura has diligently been working to do that. And as naturally as we've been going through that, we've been improving those test banks, right? So we need to get the online testing. We want to see a better product from there. And if we did decide to go just would be my recommendation. That way we wouldn't implement it until we are officially trying to issue.
Yeah, and the problem for our career field, our chief hires somebody, sends them to a 10-week academy, so they've invested $10,000 in them already. and you say after the third test, you fire a guy, that probably would never happen. Although what if they never pass? I mean, that's not our problem. I can sympathize with the fire chief, because by the time they get to the time, rookie school, you've spent $10,000 to $15,000 on salary, gear, uniforms, and you wanna salvage them. Of course, we lose track. They don't have to be certified. They won't salary something they do. I mean, sometimes we confuse those issues. Authority having jurisdiction can do whatever they want.
So I'll tell you, if we were to go this route, you know, what I've seen, and Commissioner Scott, you brought it up, that it's been a conversation with the record. Hasn't been a conversation with me, and I wasn't aware of that. This conversation, right? And I apologize if you guys have to repeat yourself, but,
It's been going on for 30 years.
yeah, for 30 years, right? I mean, but here's the thing, you know, what I don't want to do is if we decided to go this route and actually quantify a number of retests that were allowed, you can't just put the number in writing and never, you know, tie some type of implications to it, right? Or it's just meaningless. It's just meaningless. Now, we just put a number and rule that in 5 years from now, we're back here having the same conversation. Why do we have that in rule? We never follow it to begin with, right? So, I mean, I think it would be something that we decided to go that route, so really have to think it out. But at the same time, you know, I don't think this is a major issue. I think this is a small group of people that have highlighted this as something we need to talk about. But I don't think most folks, after they retest 2, maybe 3 times at the most, they pass the test. We do have a couple of folks that are on their 5th, 6th retest. That's about it.
So the director, Commissioner Scott here. Question is, and we're doing this with our rules right now. Can your office track this?
Not
Can they track,
right now. Online, yeah. Once we go to online, yes, but right now, there's no way.
but in paper, you can't.
Right.
You can't track how many times the person passed.
Well, right now, we're able to somewhat track it just by based on their Arcadis profile.
Yeah.
And see-
But somewhat's not gonna,
But it's not a metric we can pull or anything like that. Right?
so it's something that we cannot enforce today.
It would be very cumbersome process.
So this would be a conversation that once we get online testing going, that we should revisit at that time.
You all agree that, hey, it's not worth.
It's worth the conversation, but if your office can't handle it, it's not worth talking about.
Well, we keep kicking that can down the road. It keeps coming up. I've got a couple of issues the same way. We keep passing off. I think we need to make a decision. We can make it retroactive once they go online, but we need to make a decision on this. What is this body for? And I think it's to provide the path to professional certification. Taking tests multiple times until I eventually see all the answers and pass it. We want to do. I would think you can take a test, wait 30 days, take it a second time, wait 90 days. And if you can't pass it then, we take the course. Right now, we allow people to take it over and over again. There's no incentive. Yes, that's what, thank you. So now we're putting an incentive down, like, look, you only have this. I've seen a department tell their recruits, you got 2 chances to pass. If you don't, you're fired. And it's amazing what happens to their pass rate.
So I agree with a little bit with what Commissioner Cobb is saying, right? I mean, but I also think he makes a good point that Chairman Windrow brought up earlier, authority having jurisdiction can implement their own policies, right? There are departments out there that have stricter policy. And that's a business decision that will take. And so one of the things we would have to think about, if we decided to go this route, get the online testing, you know, if we would have to develop a refresher course, and remember, that's not the commission. Who would develop that course?
The HJ or TFAC.
TFACA, right? So that would be something that we would want to make sure TFACA would even have bandwidth and resources to be able.
But it still goes back to today, your office can't track it.
Yeah, today we cannot track it. That's why earlier I recommended, hey, we would wait till online testing before we even went online. It does not make sense right now to make monumental changes when we are so close to online testing. We can repurpose our resources to be able to help us build our procedures, structure for online testing. And work myself that will do myself for change.
So you're being self-right.
Jason Sparks, Director of Fire Academy, so just a couple of things, so you all know this. And in the teaching side of things, one of the things we're gonna run into, talking about a very, very small group of people, we're gonna have one or two or three students in something like this, or be trying to put on a class for a refresher class for probably a very small amount of people, which is difficult. But that's something to think about. And then the other thing, I mean, the only other concern with testing line is probably the place, and you all know this, probably the place where it's gonna cause problem the most is hazmat. Looks like that's the most. I'm not saying they're a huge group of people. Most of them are gonna get tested in that three tries, but there are gonna be groups that's gonna affect. But I just want to say those things.
In line with the retest, your A and C kind of touch this too, the 15 days from retest. So I mean, we are tracking manually if they fail. If somebody's checking, I guess we're checking that they didn't test last week. If we have a 15-day entry, and then the 14 day rule is more when they make their application to the commission office, whether it be for a class or for a test or for a practical. So all these are intertwined. One affects the other. Because if they failed the Friday, well, they took it Thursday, it's for group class. They're not graduating right away, they're gonna be tested. Well, I guess they still graduate, there's so many certificate.
Our registrars, whenever they go to process that, test request, right? That's what they're evaluating, and a cadence. There is a control process in place to prevent them from retesting earlier than what the rule allows, right? But that's they're being prompted to do so, not so much of us being just a metric on.
So what about, the commission was to discuss that 14-day submission rule. It's come into question a few times, and how many days in between retesting? Even if they allow 100 tests, what's the waiting period between the tests? And I've seen, somebody just mentioned an increased wait in between, to put some teeth in it. Because if you can go every 14 days, you will just keep doing it until a blind squirrel will eventually find an acorn. If they root around long enough. Yeah, I've seen wait periods be longer. Well, hope they study.
One of the benefits of online testing is when folks take a test, even those who pass will receive, I don't know, it won't be a printout, but they'll be able to see for each JPR, for each area of that test. So if you had 10 questions from this area and you missed 5, they'll be able to see that. We want to provide that capability. not only to those who fell, but to those who passed. Obviously, to those who fell, it'll provide them the information they need on where their weak areas are. But for those who passed, a lot of people still want to know who the weak areas are. So they can, go back and study or brush up on their skill. So they'll have a little bit of a roadmap moving forward on knowing, hey, all right, I'm good in this area. I need to focus attention on this area. So, this is why I felt
And that's gonna come with online tests.
that'll come with online tests. We've been in communication with Cadis. I've been explicit about the fact that I'm ability.
Where we knock these out, yeah, don't keep can down, but it's coming soon. So A is the notification to the commission. So that the field reps can be scheduled, or whatever. Is there enough proctors if it's a practical exam? What's that timeline? And to me, it's easiest for TPAC because they know the class graduated last Friday, so they can back up and go. We need to do the practicals. It's easy for them to get 14 days now. Memphis, Nashville, their academies are fairly structured. They have 20 staff.
What are you looking at?
Right here, A, director's report. I may have an older agenda,
Yeah,
but he brought, it's,
That, I think we have a proposed change to that. In the next resolution.
yeah, because we went ahead and dropped the 14 days to 5. We did that at the last meeting.
So we're talking about the registration.
And then we did, yeah, which
Which we have implemented because it's a positive change.
we're gonna talk about that here in a minute. But then it's still the 14 days in between, or 15 days between retests. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Okay. So.
Directly. Hurting, right, but, you know,
No, yeah, we addressed that at the last meeting.
Right, would you like me to speak on that?
Not right now.
No.
So let's talk about reciprocity stats. We're at 266 for the year.
The classes.
Okay, all right. And the 54 denied, were they certifications that we don't recognize or?
Yeah, I won't give those details. Tell you, they were denied because of.
So then the next two is, we talked about HMA, HMO pass-fail rates. And then we talked about the increase in testing for both, tripled since February of 2026. Has it tripled because of the number of fails and its retests that are included in that triple?
I would venture to guess, yes, that's part of it, yeah.
So that's why it's increased, is because of.
I wouldn't say that's the sole reason. It's hard to know what the actual reason it is, but I think common sense would tell us that probably something.
I just had 3 that graduated from the academy, and I have 1 that's coming home without any certifications. Okay, but he passed the academy, and so he still has his job right now. I do like to hear that we are looking at piloting a hands-on practical, because that's one of the things when you did pull the ERG from the HMA test, I received a lot of phone calls. I received a ton of phone calls about why. And this is also part of that conversation that's been taking place for years of going single source textbooks, where when we reference material on our website of what everyone needs to study, the ERG is not listed on there. It's not. The Jones and Bartlett textbook is. And we've actually had this discussion over the years as well during these meetings, where firefighters today are not reading the books. They're not reading the textbooks. They're taking lecture they're taking their hands-on that they're doing, and they're implying that that's gonna be the written test. And a lot of the lecture is, but if they read the book, they would score at least a 7. And I don't want to make things easy because our job's not easy. But we have to find this happy medium to increase these scores. And of course, a class is only as good as the instructor. Okay. And I'm not saying we have bad instructors or good instructors. I mean, an instructor is an instructor. Everyone has their own ways of instructing, but at the end of the day, we have a lot of people that are getting held up because they can't pass this first hurdle. How do we overcome this?
That's hard for me to answer, right? I think that's, U.S. Fire Chief Scott. I know that it has you, right? And that's your life, right? I get it. And I think that's a business decision you have to make, that every fire chief has to make for departments. I can tell you the ERG, right? One of the issues that we realized, and the reasons that led to me pulling the ERG is, as you stated, that test is 100% derived off of the textbook. And time again, I was told that folks are being told not to worry about studying because they have the ERG. It's a crutch. Now, what started this whole situation was because we had somebody challenge the test and they quoted the ERG, and the ERG actually led them down the wrong path. But I'm very much convinced that in a 3-hour period, by having the ERG, folks get in the right direction enough to be able to pass the test. On the very cover of the 2024 ERG, it says that it is a reference guide to be used during the initial stages of response. So, I don't want to belabor the point. I recognize that the way I rolled out the change was wrong. I take full ownership of that. But I think it kind of aligned with what I believe the point is that you're getting to, is that, hey, listen, there's a better way to do it. And that if we're going to use it, let's focus on the actual skills evaluations and incorporate the requisite knowledge into that. So we maximize exposure to the ERG, which is one of the main points of contention that I've received from the Tennessee Fire Service. They want maximum exposure to the ERG.
Well, as we know, that's what awareness is. How do we identify? What do we need to do once we identify? So it only makes sense that if we're going to talk awareness, how are we making it aware? Right. So by doing that practical testing as the only test of utilizing the ERG and being able to incorporate that could help with what we're needing to accomplish here. It's just, we had a previous accreditation manager that said that we couldn't do strictly a hands-on practical test to appease accreditation.
So throughout this process, I contacted multiple states. And all the states, with the exception of one, all the states that allow the ERG for their testing, they're exclusively skill. There's another state that I talked to that does have a written test for design awareness. They don't allow the ERG. They made that change 5-6 years ago. One of the largest states in the country. But I'm not worried about what other states do, to be quite honest with you. In my opinion, it's irrelevant. I think what we need to worry about is what we do in the state of Tennessee. It's the best for Tennessee Fire. And I think after communication with, one thing I'll say is, since I have started the position last December, I've had a hard time of communicating with fire service leaders, and I've talked to more fire service leaders since I made this change than before that, right? So what I've kind of jokingly said is that's one of the reasons why I did it, so people would talk to me. However, what I will say moving forward is that I know you all fielded a lot of phone calls, and what I will put out to everybody in attendance is that moving forward, when there is a change, and if you have a question or a concern about it, please call me. Please call me. And I think we can have a discussion on it. I'm not always right. I am always right. But I will tell you that I'm not shooting from the hips. There is a rational thinking behind it. And if something comes up that I didn't think about or we didn't think about as a team, we'll absolutely address it.
I'm sorry for hijacking this. Is any other commissioners?
Yeah, let's just say, I think we've decided that we're gonna hold this till the electronic testing is rolled out as far as retest times.
Oh, we're past that. No, we've moved down the list.
So the HMO, our HMO pass rate has increased. It was completely flip-flop. About 30% pass rate and a 60% fail rate. So now we are 60% pass, 30 fail. HMA has done just opposite. And I think that is because, we've changed testing material. They're having to read out the book. They're not used to it. And we've got to get the word out. You've got to get this book. You've got to go this route. And once that occurs, I think we'll see that go up. But when are we looking at actually implementing the practical pilot testing? So there will be no written test at all, right?
Correct. But those two disciplines, those are going to be our two pilot disciplines that we go. The problem is we'll have to, we want to present that to you and the rest of the commissioners. That will also require a rule change, right? So there's going to be some time that this takes. So in the meantime, I can't stress it enough that everybody needs to encourage their folks to study the textbooks. Right? And I think Commissioner Cobb's threw a valid point is I think what you see in the number, right, and this is an assumption, is the reason why HMO has increased is because the folks that did make it through HMA have a better grasp of the information you can actually study, right? So you have a better pool of people that are not come on well, but you had a more prepared group of people that passed HMA and that were taking HMO, right? Because remember, we do those tests hand in hand, right?
When we switched this, I didn't see that. I saw HMO switch very quickly and HMA drop very quickly. And they didn't have time to move through it. But I have a question. Did anybody on this commission fit through the HMA validation? So I have a question about that validation process. Because if we had another entity may have stepped through it. I would like to see us revalidate that.
So I was told that that test was validated and that was redated my time. I can't speak for whether it was or it wasn't, but I will tell you that I do not recommend we do it right now. I recommend that, hey, we continue forward with using our bandwidth of resources to get us to the hands on. Right? If we do a test validation right now, I can tell you, I have personally reviewed those tests, and I have looked at every test question we have and made sure that it comes out of the textbook. It does. And I will go on record and say that. It's a hard test. The very nature of hazmat is hard.
I have questions that things I've been told, I've not been to testify, that we have questions for hazmat awareness that are in the HMO section of the book. You have to build into the HMO section to get those answers. So it may be in the book, but where is it in the book?
Laura, can you speak to that?
I wasn't part of the validation process for this one either.
And the only thing I can tell everybody in attendance is that if that's the case, let us know. Let us know. I can tell you every test, every challenge that comes through is directly reviewed by myself or cost and evaluation. And there have been some tests that we have changed one test question because it was a bad test question. And we had to print off all new text to do it. And I'm willing to do that. willing to do that. If we have to change one test question, so be it. But I can tell you that the way we look at things may be different than the way the field is looking at it. Sometimes a different perspective is good. We don't know what we don't know, but you have to let us, you have to inform us. And if that's the case, I encourage any training officer out there, what have you, to reach out to us. And I can promise you, we'll be.
Jason, did a job, something.
I was part of that test validation. There was like 5 or 6 of us in the room. 3 of us from East Becca, so that test was validated. Probably been 1 or 2 years. That's it.
But Commissioner Cobb brought up a good point though.
Mr. Henry.
Those questions are they coming from like HMA? Are they coming out of HMO?
They were out of the chapters that are represented. Was it 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3?
I think in Jones Hartley, it's 2 chapters.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
That's hazmat.
Yeah.
So, but the question though is, if we're teaching somebody today, HMA, and we're only teaching them HMA, it may only be chapter 1, or the information may be half of chapter 1. I haven't read it, I don't know. But the test questions are coming out of, say, chapter 2 as well for HMA. We're setting them up for failure.
Don't say Commissioner.
It was done at TFAC.
There was a commissioner there. It was done at TFAC.
It wasn't done like a big room with a bunch of validation going on at the same time.
No, it was just that particular test. It was just that test. They were reading. Same way we did the rest of them. They read the question. We found it in the book. So somewhere there's a highlighted test. Like the rest of them that have the question kicked out.
Yeah, that's gonna be the big question though,
Yeah.
that you brought up is, where are those HMA questions coming from? Is it coming out of, both chapters or?
Can you not read 2 chapters?
Well,
that's the thing is, chapter 2 covers both HMA and HMO. And we can't say, hey, HMA test only covers
No, but what I'm
chapter
saying is-
2, pages 1 and like, I mean, at the end of the day, stuff.
You're right, I know, but what I'm getting at though is, as we're teaching these classes, if we're teaching steps, I may not be ready to go into operations with these people. I may only want to stay in the awareness realm right now. And so I may only cover the chapter that is that realm. I may not cover both chapters.
And that's, I mean, like I said, it's back to the instruction, right? I mean, I think it's crucial that folks that teach this course, they are focusing that on the fact that they have a sound curriculum and that they're devoting the instructor hours needed to effectively prepare their folks. We don't develop that for them. We don't develop that for them. So
No, but once again, where's the information?
Can't tell you, Jen, conversations with my staff, with my belief that all of those questions and validation came from those 2 chapters. There's always a little bit of overrun, but it's my belief that that's the case. The other thing I'll tell you, and you all mentioned this, things we've learned, we use 100% of the questions at our disposal and the quizzes and the homework, because that is the only way I can get them to read the book. If they have to dig to answer those questions, that's the only way, the best way we found to make them successful. And the other thing I'll tell you, out of those 2 chapters, because of, as of late, and I think there's 46 or 47 pages devoted to HMA in that textbook, and about 16 or 17 of those are photos of sections of the ERG as well, pictures of it, and showing you how to use that. So, 3 more of those pages are DOT marking. Yeah, that you have to memorize, but they're nowhere else. They don't exist in the ERG. No.
Commissioner Cobb, you had,
I'm still on director's report.
Oh, man.
And
If y'all don't mind, David Doris, Jackson Fire, also represent Carmen's Association. When I sent the letter after the first round of testing when the change took place, and we all fought to get one textbook. So I admitted the director, I take ownership of my teaching style. I was bad in that class, so don't worry about memorizing these laws. You need to know how to use the ERG. I took ownership in that, but the question I asked was, it was the last teleconference meeting last year, I believe, is we know the book changed, but nobody knew the whole test process, thought process behind HMA changed. That's where I put in writing at that time. Things like that need to be put out to let instructors know, and I should have known. That's on me. I'm not talking to me, I'm talking to everybody else that I got phone calls from. From my understanding, Commissioner Henry was in that test betting too. He has said in these meetings in the past since then that they looked at things and the questions were just under a picture, they threw them out. That they vetted it, I take his word for it along the academy. But the other thing I asked in that, like the book committee were now, years ago in the policies that don't exist anymore, the old policies told us what the test vetting committee should look like. And in that letter, I requested, why can't someone doesn't have to be me, someone from the Firemen Association represent the state, some other instructors from each region of the state, a rep from the academy. Instead, we had the accreditation manager, 3 TPACA, and 1 commissioner vetting the test. And then we can share that information of how the process works and be part of it and throw ownership back on us as well in doing that process.
experience tells me we can't get anybody to come to that.
And
I would
chapter
gladly-
29 and 30 are
I would
hazard awareness.
Thank
You see
you.
what I'm saying?
I would gladly.
It's very tedious.
So
Can't get
clarification for what you just said, did you hit there? So we did not validate the test to the combined book.
That's correct.
So
We validated it to the hazmat book.
So the new test banks are supposed to be out of what we were told. Jones and Bartlett with hazmat, 5th edition. And I have not taken a test. All I can take is phone calls, one in the state to the other. All my own recruits and Jan's recruits, people I know, that they walk out and they can't find things on it. I don't know. I can't
So-
say that. But
so
the biggest plan I heard is awareness had questions like what color coding for a hot zone is. Well, that's in ops, not awareness.
And depending on which book you get.
I don't know that. Like you said, I can't attest to that. That's just
So
things
if,
I've been
if
told.
we're telling our customers that they're reading Jones and Bartlett 5th edition with hazmat, but we're validating the test on strictly the hazmat book, we just set them up for failure.
Amen.
I mean, I can't speak to anything I can't speak to that. I can speak to what we're doing. I hear the concerns,
Well, I think
And I
this is
think that's
something that
what-
needs to be addressed immediately.
but absolutely, I've looked through that test. It's out of that book.
Out of the single book, not the combined book. But see, when they go to the academy to take their class, they're getting the combined book.
No, they're not. Everywhere else is.
My understanding, the test that was vetted was not the 5th edition, and that was what I sent the letter October, November, wherever it was, and asked that question. Of what book was vetted, and was this new test bank vetted? I keep being told yes, but at that time, there were 5 different books on your list, 4, I'm sorry.
No, 4th edition.
Yeah, the 4th
What we
edition.
Validated.
We were on the 5th edition, not the 4th edition.
Correct.
4th edition hazmat. Yeah. That is the portion of 1072. The 4th edition hazmat is the current.
5th edition fundamental.
Fundamentals.
It's the 5th edition combo book.
Yes, that's the 4th single book. Or you just do like I do. I teach out of all of them.
Yeah.
It's the Jones Bartlett. I teach them all. Because I don't, we make our hazmat techs be TEMA certified. They don't care if it's commissioned. But the way I've found my recruits do better for anybody that really cares is teach out all 3 books.
Mhm.
And they do that, you know what I mean? But the terminology is different. But all I have to say is I would appreciate if we were given an opportunity to be on these test validation. I will be more than glad to come. If given that opportunity.
Well, even what we're discussing with going to, skills based, with skills based with that test. I'm saying is, like, that's why we have CPACA helping us develop it. We're gonna pilot test it. We're gonna be reaching out, the departments in this room that are in attendance on this page. We could come out and one that is pilot test case. Identify issues, if there are issues. We sustain it.
I think that's where we're at, is like he said, we spin our wheels every meeting on certain rules and we never press forward. And if the new people come in and then we never do anything.
But no, that's what they validated the test on, was the fourth edition of the hazmat awareness in Bob's book. The single, when we talk about single source textbooks, we're talking about one textbook.
That's-
One textbook, not two. And on our website here, it says that test bank contents is based on the following: Jones and Bartlett Hazardous Materials Awareness and Operations, fourth edition, or the Jones and Bartlett Fundamentals, Firefighter Skills and Hazardous Materials Response, fifth edition.
That's correct.
That's two separate textbooks.
It is.
I have to go back in my email, but I'm sure it went out statewide around July of last year that we are now hazmat awareness and ops of the fifth edition. And now we voted along with that information, firefighter 1 and 2, using the exact same version of the book.
So once again, going back to single source textbooks is one book.
But that's where we're at, is the terminology changed in those two books. Like Cold Zone is now a name, like one's red, one's black. That's where you're getting into that fourth and fifth edition difference. So I'm having to teach both because it is different terminology. Level 1 suits are now level A's. They're numbered versus letters. That's what you're getting into.
So
between the
am
fifth.
I correct in my thinking that single source means one textbook?
I think that may be a misprint. I think the test bank.
But this is what our customers are seeing.
When we
Our
purchase books,
customers are
that's what we
seeing
go
two
through.
separate textbooks.
Not even a fifth edition.
No, but it's in the combined, firefighting skills. There's two chapters.
Firefighter skills and hazardous materials, fifth edition. One Jones and Bartlett.
Yeah, that's a single source book
Yeah.
for everything.
There's a fifth edition managing the incident, which is incident command.
That's correct.
So to keep us from spinning circles here, when I ask our accreditation member, please go back and look at that. We give you our word, we will go back and look at it. We need to make a change. All right,
It didn't change. We're talking about
I use it.
the validation
Money class.
of this and going online as they, the practice. I may take a year.
so I'm saying, if we need to make a change, we will make a change. Yeah, we will make a change. We will revalidate the test if we must validate.
Part of the validation process, I think he even admitted in the validation station. They were long days, hard, rather not against that, but it also gives our customers sitting in this room back here buy-in.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna be honest with you from a commissioner standpoint, maybe I shouldn't say this, but they know more about what's going on and more about this than we do. Because we deal with it occasionally, you know, and field all these calls. They're dealing with it every day. So I strongly suggest we go back and we're validating or whatever we're talking, that we incorporate these folks that deal with this every day of their life. Job. There's nobody that's like being a fire chief. You're not gonna get a firefighter, go get a firefighter. You work for a fire chief. They don't know, they haven't been there yet. They're there every day working this stuff. That's just my suggestion. Another suggestion I would say, and I don't know how it's all going out, communicate everything I'm hearing today and everything I've heard on phone calls, communicate. I'm not blaming nobody because it's that way across every fire department in the nation. I've been around too many of them. But we've got to improve communications down the line with any changes, however that is. You know, if we have to go through the Fire Chiefs Association and ask for help and make sure all the fire departments get it through their email site, or whatever we got to do, but we got to get this word out. We can't depend on our customers going to our websites and find all this stuff out. We've got to help push this stuff out ourselves also. That's just my suggestion.
Commissioner Moore, I appreciate that. I agree with you. I can tell you, I've been trying to communicate as much as I can. I've been on the road. I've been all around the state trying to communicate in person. There are limitations to how I can communicate. Processes in place that limit my ability to communicate. But it's not an excuse. And we will make a concerted effort to communicate more. And what I can tell you is moving forward, I hear the feedback. I hear it. I promise you, we will make a more concerted effort with involved in exactly how you're saying, Commissioner, with involved in those who are smarter with this than always have. We look at it from an accreditation certification standpoint, right? But we're not on the other side of it taking the test. And I think it's important to include the feedback that we're receiving from the field of those that are taking the test every day. Now, what I will say is that when it comes to communication, I'll be blunt, it works both ways. Instead of calling the state senator, give me a call. Give me a call. That's all I have.
And if y'all don't receive our Emma's, when Director Barlow has something to share fire service, one of the first things he does is to just Emma email, and you can sign up with those for our website. And Laura can show you how, if you guys don't have those, you can call them too. You don't have to be a training officer to get those. I get them, and I'm a lawyer, so, y'all can get those, and then send a phone call to them or an email to Laura. We'll get you the answers. We just don't know you're asking. And so,
One thing I'll say on Chief's point there is, and this is before your time, I understand that, but we used to go each grand division with a group and sit down and go through these tests, because one group may miss something that the next group gets, not just one little pod in one place. That's what we've got to get back to, because when we did that, we did not have this issue. And we didn't have the problems that we're having now. It goes back to communication. Squawk this, I feel like squawking in that time. I'm done talking about communication. That's our biggest issue. But we've got to do a better job of vetting the tests. One, just to make sure that they're spelled right, they're written right, they're done correctly. I mean, that's our biggest problem, number one. And then number two is to make sure that we're coming out of the textbooks that we're putting out here for our customers to be able to take care of. And
That's
this is
really
not
so
something
that
we
you
got
buy
to
a new
keep the
textbook
speed
every
our
year.
wheels. This is something that we've got to move on now, versus later. So, and with that, I'll make a motion that we take a 2-minute recess. My favorite.
Thank you.
Call the meeting back to order.
I asked. Commissioner Scott, I have one more item I would like to discuss in the director's report, and that's fire department course approvals. When you presented it to us, one of the things that you mentioned was having blanket approvals. What did you mean by that?
As Director Barlow. So basically what was happening is the information that was being provided to us before was basically just what course you wanted approval for and how many hours it was in the test. When I asked the question, how many have we ever denied? It was 0, right? Because there's not enough information there for you to really make an educated decision. By having them provide correlations, right, we can validate, hey, listen, this course meets the requirements of the NFPA JPRs. We as the commission said this requirement. And if folks aren't providing that information, then we can reach back to them saying, this is a chance. But not providing. Well, we have more metrics to evaluate now to be able to make an educated decision, which before it was just basically, hey, as long as you submit us a form that you fill out via this web form on Cadus. And I just didn't think that was what the intent of what the commission had for course approval. We don't let third parties do that. We require them to go through the process. Now, we require them to come from the commission, right? And I'm not saying we're on that route. We're still keeping the administrative process the same way. We're just saying, hey, listen, you need to show that this course meets the requirement for that certification and ultimately this person get by completing this course.
So when did you put the metrics in place?
We just recently changed that, probably 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I believe about 2 months ago.
So 8 weeks? How many courses have been denied in the 8 weeks?
We haven't denied any, but we have had to reach back out to them, and I'm not a fan of just blankly denying, right? If we can communicate back to them and say, hey, listen, you're missing this, if you do this, we send with approval of departments that have submitted the right product. We've asked them, hey, can we give this as an example? And they've given us approval. We've sent them that as a template. So, listen, because it's easier when you see what we're asking, right? It's easier to kind of explain what we're asking for. So what we're saying. So with every one of those, we have been able to approve them by just going back and forth with them and explaining them to.
In the Jackson meeting, I made a motion that effective January 1st of 27, all departments would need to resubmit their basic firefighting curriculum for approval. Are we going to start tracking the classes that we're approving at this point?
Right. We have been. I don't have that specific number for you right now, but I can tell you we have started tracking. We have been, there's been a decent amount of departments that have been submitting their curriculum for that, their academies that are referenced by NFPA 1010. And some of them we had to just kind of reach back out to them, but we have been. But message seems to now because we are filtering those.
And then we are verifying that they're teaching to the correct curriculum for what we're testing.
Correct. So the one in question in NFPA 1010, right, we're making sure that, hey, that your existing curriculum is adjusted and adapted to the NFPA 1010 requirements. The only caveat that we're providing to that is that, hey, we as a commission are not saying that you have to start teaching in NFPA 1010. We can't do that until the rules are updated, right? And we let them say, hey, this is not official until.
All right. So based on the previous conversation, now this conversation, we kind of dropped the ball somewhere. And that ball is talking about hazmat. So we need to definitely look at course approvals right now until we can get this taken care of. Speaking to Ben Wexler with TPACA during the break, they're teaching both books. But most of it's coming out of the 4th edition because that's where the nuts and bolts of hazmat ordinance and hazmat ops are. And right now we're feeding, I don't want to say a false narrative to our customers, but if we're telling them that they could do one or the other, we have definitely failed our firefighters. And we need to get that fixed immediately.
Like I said, I can't speak for, I can tell you is that I have been told that what we have listed, the way that test was developed was approved by the commission potential to be done the way we have. And if that's not right, then by all means, that's a problem that we have inherited and that we will fix. So we will go back and Laura's given us a commitment, she'll take a look at it. If we need to make changes, then we're gonna make that a test.
Thank you. Did I get you all flustered?
Yeah, no. Just trying to get the schedule, get through the agenda. Commissioner Cobb had a couple of items he sent out on.
Can we talk about evaluator training first?
Yeah, let's do that.
So, yeah, I'll speak on that. I sent all of you all an example of the evaluator training that we're doing or that we'd like to propose for approval by the commission. That's in line with being able to accomplish this training in-house, right? I think we all recognize that trying to create a formal evaluator training which departments have to send their people to or what have you. That's just, it's not feasible. And so, myself and Laura, we went through and we created the slideshow that I sent you all. I did receive some feedback from Commissioner Cobb. I haven't sent out an updated version because I wanted to wait for the meeting to see if there was any other feedback that would want to be provided. But basically, you know, his feedback is valuable, so I'll make the updates to it. But basically, what I'm looking for from the commission is an agreement in principle that, hey, that's the way we want to go, right? Is that format of delivery evaluation. Because from an accreditation standpoint, we have to validate that we have some type of policy or procedure for evaluators to understand the requirements of the commission.
Cadence or how would they?
We haven't got to that point yet. Right now, it's just, what we would probably do is
Cadus,
upload it through Cadence, yeah.
That's where it was previously, that's where it was previous.
But we're not, if that worked, then yeah, we'll go that route, absolutely. But basically what's gonna happen is, and people have already heard me say it in passing, but we want fire chiefs to be fire chiefs, and they need to know that whenever they sign and attest to the fact that the evaluator that they selected is qualified, certified, and has completed that training that they have. We can't police that. We cannot police that. But that's why we want to put that ownership back in leadership's hands and say, listen, these are the requirements of the commission. And we want to be explicit in our communication on that. Or to be an evaluator is not just picking your buddy who you think's going to be a good evaluator. You have to be certified, you have to be qualified, and you have to have completed that evaluator training to understand the requirements that we as the commission set forth. So if you all like that concept, then we'll proceed forward with it. I'll incorporate the feedback from Commissioner Cobb, and then I can send you an updated version. We can go from there. But I will tell you that it's somewhat of a priority for us to make a decision on it.
I thought in our last meeting, we went ahead and moved forward with it.
Okay. I don't recall that, but I thought we had made a decision.
I thought we had made a decision to allow him to develop.
Yeah.
Right.
Is what we trying to look at.
When we talked about the evaluator training, I just want I want to put some clarification out because this is the direction we're moving. A lot of people got heartburn when we said that moving to in-house evaluations, that all JPRs had to be addressed. I think the heartburn was that they weren't understanding the concept. And the concept is while you're training, while you're teaching this class, you're able to check them off on their JPRs as part of their practical during that examination.
With certain stipulations, the same person who instructed.
Correct. I didn't get to that part.
You have to provide us the 14-day notice, right? So if you know that's your process that you're going to do, submit us that notification in advance.
If I know that I'm gonna be teaching my basic fireman, notice I keep saying basic firefighter and not 64 because it's a cultural change, right? But as I'm teaching basic firefighter, I'm gonna be teaching it during this 6-week period. And during these 6 weeks, I'm gonna be doing skills evaluations daily. That's all I need to do is just get to your office at this six-week period. There's gonna be skills. And then that way the regional coordinators could reach out and say, hey, what skills are you testing today? I may come by.
That's insane. We recognize, hey, listen, I was a firefighter, an operational firefighter. I know, I can't tell you how many times I came in and I had a plan for the day and I ripped it up by the end of that first hour of that shift. I get it. So we did not want to make that form so specific that it tied hands on folks trying to give us down to the minute on whenever we do something. If you can give us a time frame, a block, and then understand that, hey, our coordinators will reach out to you to try to narrow down that information. That's the biggest deal for us, right? We're trying to work with the fire service, but the big thing that I want to stress is that, you know, if you're going to use that method, you absolutely can. You can say, hey, we're going to do this morning, we're going to teach you these skills, and in the afternoon, we're going to evaluate you. You just have to make sure whoever taught those skills is not evaluated.
Correct.
That's to meet the requirements of the evaluation.
But I think one of the biggest heartburns was when people heard the 14-day with, you know, the skills that I'm gonna have to do 92 skills in this small window. No, that's not the case. It's, if I'm teaching this class over 6 or 8 weeks, here's my window, and it gives the coordinator the opportunity to call and say, hey, what are you doing today? I'm coming by. Right. And then, yes, and then they could still do the evaluate the practicals in the current way where they could still do a testing event.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason for the 100% skills evaluation, remember, we're required to teach the 100%, right? So it goes hand in hand that you would evaluate the skill as you go on. To me, if I was in the field and if I was doing this, that's the way I would do it. Now, you don't have to do it that way, right? You can say the first half of our academy is going to be the instruction, and then the second half is going to be the skills. Whatever works best for you. But we just want to make sure that the policy procedures of evaluation, and everybody is aware of it. That way they can make that decision, right?
Commissioner Green, just for your clarification, Bill, in our last meeting, we did give Laura and the director permission to go back, look and see what other states were doing and stuff like that. So I think we're good to make those changes and resend that back out so we can vote on it and move on.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll make those changes. Probably beginning next week. I'll incorporate the changes of Commissioner Cobb, and then I'll send that back out to you all. Then, now the problem is with that, I don't know if that evaluator training will require a rule update or not. Okay.
Our rules that we just finished workshopping in chapters 2, 3, and 4 are in internal review right now, and it's in consideration. Guidance from executive.
But like I said, that is a priority because that is something, luckily we have developed that. So we have been able to speak to that when questioned by specifically Pro Board recently. That hey, we have developed something in case they want to.
So under old business, I had, the youth fire setting certification, but after talking to the director, I believe what we originally thought was coming forward has turned out to be something different. He was wanting to certify people that were non-firefighters in those classes. And, so with that, I don't think we can move forward with that certification. Yes.
But you had two things in mind.
Yes, I also had requested that we look back into rule and bring back vehicle extrication. I don't know of a department that this does not touch. When we removed those, it's my understanding that PFACA couldn't teach it at the time, but a lot of rescue related courses, bridge, drawing blank here, confined space, things like that. Was my understanding why that was dropped.
Are you asking, in addition to vehicle extrication, this going along with the question we see in the rulemaking hearing, that we add additional certification within the rescue realm?
I would absolutely like to bring them all back. I was gonna start with vehicle extrication, but we can bring them all.
Yeah, so the only thing I'll say is that, hey, that's you and the commissioners, the rest of the commission's decision. But what I will say is, you know, I think it's very prudent that we take into account, hey, all right, what is the need across the board? Because yes, while a certain area of the state may require one of those certifications because it benefits them, remember, anytime we add a certification, that's additional work. Hey, we need that, we have to build that, we have to maintain that, we have to buy potentially more seals that come along with that. it's just, it's an additional workload, right? And so if there's a need across the board, absolutely, I think it is, but you know, just because 5 people need it, is that really the best way to do it, right? But you know, if we go that route, and I think we're gonna have a public comment on that, certainly, but you know, I could provide you a recommendation, and I just think it's that we need to consider all the facts with that, but at the end of the day, if you and the rest of the commissioners feel that, hey, we need to expand upon the rescue discipline certification wise, then okay. But it's just gonna, there are competing priorities, and it may take time for us to develop that. I can guarantee you, those will require which are, so this is something that's, we want to open that, you know, up for discussion. Okay, but, that's just my case.
Today, I definitely personally want to see vehicle electrification come back. Public comment, we'll go from there.
And are there other entities? No, not everybody has an active cars membership, but East Tennessee is a heavy. Do they offer certification? Or I know they offer training now, certification, two separate things. Do they offer? What is their process of and I'd say that we need to get into something that's already provided across the state. Never been, I mean, we were always a member of TAR. It seemed to always be a great East Tennessee product with that. Because yeah, you get some very special like we're offering rope now. And TPAC can teach it. There's several entities around the state that teach up to the practical skills down on Signal Mountain on that side of the mountain. Just curious because those disciplines can get very costly and very costly for a department to maintain. Just to send people to training.
Amount of resources, so we were to create those certifications, right? The amount of resources required for a department to even teach some of those certifications is astronomical. And they require maintenance of those resources as well. It's a very specialized certification. Those are perishable skills that come along with it. And it just because you get certified in it, and what we want, I think it's important for us to prevent us from creating a certification that a firefighter from a department that their mission set doesn't encompass that specialized skill. Doesn't say, look at it and say, oh, that's a cool certification, let me go get it, and then they never do anything with it, right? Vehicle extrication, I'll speak to that. You don't need a certification to get vehicle extrication training, right? You can incorporate that into your annual training plan. You can do vehicle extrication anytime. You just need a vehicle and some basic, you know, tools, you know, hydraulic tools, the hydraulics, whatever you need, whatever you have, which most departments have in their arsenal. But, you know, I get it. I understand that, hey, there are certain areas of the state that just based on their where they are, that they have a need for that special.
Bradley County needs support.
Right.
I think our position is to provide a professional certification. There are other entities, such as TARS, that are teaching, but that's not recognized nationally. There are national certification in education that we are not offering.
There's a feelings either way. Maybe that's something I'm just thinking out loud. And a cadence survey out to our customers. Is there a demand?
One thing we have to keep in mind is TPAC's ability to add that force to their ours, right? I mean, we're gonna stand up a certification, then, you know, we would expect that TPAC has the ability to create that core, create that training, basic and advanced education. I have to come in, well, I'm not just talking just strictly education, we're just talking trench space system.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's nice. I look at that list of also, it's training service that we provide before you get that certification. As ASJ,
Some of, I know some rich districts have sent people to teach for 10,000.
yes.
Well, he left the room, didn't he? Yeah, I don't know, but I think we're going to pay for it out of his pocket. Oh,
Well, and Chairman, you make a good point. Remember, we don't charge anybody who can take these tests,
That's correct.
right? That's a luxury that Tennessee is the minority, right? Most states require you, if you go to take their commission test, you have to pay. And I would argue that, hey, that's probably one of the reasons that folks want us to get these certifications, because they know that, hey, it's zero cost. I get it. Trust me, I get it. I understand it. But I mean, we have to make a smart decision.
Keep it smooth. Is this something we're putting in the hay walls? Is this something we need to research? I mean, we know.
I think it starts with. I think it starts with sending the survey out of what, if it's one department, okay. But if it's customers across the state that are actually looking for this, then it only makes sense for us to do it, right? So, it's definitely something that we need to look at researching. I know in West Tennessee, we have a lot of different, rescue teams between Swiftwater, Rogue, Trench Tech. We also have Tennessee Task Force 1 based out of West Tennessee. So, I mean, these classes are a lot more available to our people over there. And I think it actually it's something that we should definitely take a hard look at and see how feasible it is for us to be able to proceed with it.
Yeah. The one thing I would ask, and maybe this is a specific question for Commissioner Cobb, is why does the list of specific certifications within the rescue realm that you think we need, and we can facilitate this on our end? But I don't want to. I don't think we as the administrative staff want to sit there and try to come up with what we believe folks want. We need you all to tell us what you think we need. We can facilitate the survey, and then if you all as the commissioners vote and approve that, hey, this is a certification we are going to take on, then obviously we'll do the work with it.
And this, he said it earlier, these are perishable skills. Most people, especially if you're on a task force or team is ICS, IMT team, there are required CEUs. Yeah, I can barely tell my shoe, much less a bowling or anything. These are perishable skills that require constant. I mean, Task Force 1, they train probably every week, quarterly, yeah. So once you get the cert, the caution is, well, I'm certified, I'm good for life. Set that false narrative out there.
But what's the recurring theme that we're having? It's up to AHJ. We're offering certification. We're offering the ability for them to get this certification. It is AHJ's responsibility to keep the training done.
Anything else? Anything else on this specific topic?
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
May I address the group?
Yeah, you're signed up. Since it's relevant.
First of all, I think that, most times you should make data driven. Everybody hear me? I'm sorry. I think we should make data driven decisions. The first question I would ask is that bell buckle is rolled out rope. I don't know if it's exactly true, but I think they're probably sold out a year in advance. would you say that the response to the offering has been overwhelmingly plus?
You're talking about rope, correct?
Right. The first one that has come out, we now take personnel and send them to either to campus, or now you started having enrollment statewide with qualified instructors for rope certification, if SAC rope certification, correct?
We've been doing rope for years, but it has steadily grown. So, yes, I mean, and.
But how long have you offered the test at the end?
Well, I mean, the commission offers the test, right?
Right.
I don't know how long that's been in play, probably.
It's been a few,
It's
it's been a while.
It's probably been 5 years.
We put it with our class starting last year.
Okay, so
And that's what you're.
my
asking.
knowledge base was 1 year, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Before you, I would have had a tendency to play it.
and do you think that the test has brought additional enrollment?
It's been pretty steady.
Okay,
I mean, the program has grown some. It's pretty steady.
my guys have told me about the 6 to 12 months in advance to get in, that the class is sold out often. So that's the first piece of data-driven information. I heard TARS does not offer certification. All right. I experienced that there in my home city. The next is that there are several disciplines in the federal curriculums, even statewide. TEMA in its qualifications for Swiftwater teams is looking for, okay, Swiftwater techs with a defined curriculum, all right? And of course, the NFPA is one of those, you know. I realize that it might be something that you're taking a look at from the bigger cities. I'm in the third largest jurisdiction in the state, but is that we're the ones that are going out, all right? Since I've arrived in Knoxville, is that we've gone to 9 trench incidents, killing 6 people, all right, in the 16 county region, right? So yes, it's true that it's a defined curriculum to a specific group of people, but how do I determine who is my trench tech? I either AHJ it or I choose the national standard. We send people everywhere, all right, mostly to Alabama Fire College, but to TEACS, to Virginia Beach, and many other states, looking for what is the national definition of what is a technical rescuer in any of those disciplines. So it sure would be nice. I agree with the director in the fact that I love going to free stuff. Okay, absolutely. I don't have a problem if you decide to start charging. Right now, I think we're paying $1,300 for the next trench technician. Okay, out of Fire College, and it's probably close to $1,100 for common passenger vehicle. All right, so this is that. I just want to, you know, make sure I went on record. Is that it really is something we're looking for. Okay, we're spending extra money to leave to go get it. Okay? And it's probably, you know, some states as much as 25 years behind. When do you think you guys first did your first Firefighter 1 test? Early 90s? Earlier than that?
No, it was 98 was when we got credit, we started getting credit.
Okay, all right, so this is that, I just urge to open that committee. There's plenty of technical expertise in the larger places around the state to help, okay? I work often with the guys from Memphis, from Task Force 1. There's a pretty large group in the eastern part of the state. We've linked together with Chattanooga pretty often nowadays for, in particular, trench and structural collapse. So is that I'd urge, all right, that we pour a little horsepower on looking at it. Thank you.
Windrow.
Sir.
David Doris, Farm Association in Jackson. Sorry. David Doris, Jackson Fire and Tennessee Farm Association. I just like to throw this out early in the planning phase. So the commission has a history of when these certifications are put up, like ropes was a big one. The hazmat technician certification was another one. It's always, as of this date, you got to meet this new training standard. And then your specialist such as in East Tennessee, who are teaching ropes that don't already have that commission certification, are even not qualified to teach by the standards y'all put out. And those of us who are hazmat technicians our entire careers and stayed up to date on our training through TEMA or ropes, same thing, suddenly can't even test without going through the same exact class again because of the way the commission rules get written. We tend to always eliminate everyone who's already doing this and say it has to be the approved class as of the state. None of these agencies nationwide have anything approved through your programs. There's got to be some way of tying that together. I don't know how to do it, but I know East Tennessee had a lot of problems with ropes and all their instructors couldn't get certified. Well, at that time in the rules, you couldn't teach it, do certain skill checking without having the certification, and it eliminated everyone.
Chairman, if you don't mind, I can speak on that. No, it's a very valid point, and I can tell you it's one of the issues we just ran into with TSAR course that Toledo, actually, we ended up finding out fell under Toledo's umbrella. I think everybody's aware of this TSAR course that had been going on. You know, there were fire departments that are involved in its creation, and firefighters naturally would go to this course. And they were being told that whenever they completed it, that it gave them a course of completion credit for rescue or ropes awareness and ropes operation. That was not the case. And it became officially approved by the commission under the Toledo umbrella, which is Toledo's the one who puts on that training. We have since fixed that, as you all know. You voted on that. And now those firefighters that attend that training, they do get the course completion, but the big part of that was making sure that their training that they taught, if they want an IFSAC and Pro Board certification, has to meet the requirements of this Pro Board per the NFPA JPRs. And a lot of this training that goes on, it's great training. I'm not saying that, it's great training. But it may not 100% correlate to the NFPA requirements. And so that's where the disconnect is, right? We don't control that. I don't think the commission arbitrarily says, hey, this is what you have to do. If we want to be accredited, we have to adhere to those requirements of the IFSAC Pro Board. They're the ones who tell us, hey, it has to meet these NFPA JPRs. And so that's a unique situation to where, yes, if you stand up a certification, you're going to have folks that went through some pretty sound training, very great training that is from a reputable source, but it's taught for a Tennessee requirement and not an IFSAC Pro Board requirement. And so that's where the difference lies. The commission would have to pretty much validate that existing training either meets or exceeds IFSAC and Pro Board's requirements, and then accept it as meeting the cert, mainly grandfather, basically grandfather them in, so you can overnight create instructors, not have to build an instructor pool.
No, IFSAC will allow grandfather. I was participating quite a bit of that DOD. So it could be grandfather. That would you have to a short window.
Yeah, short one.
Short window specific criteria. So it's not something we wouldn't be looking at. 1006 is the only good luxury is a lot of those sub-disciplines all require ropes at its base. The trench, the high angle, the low angle, the confined space, they all require ropes as well in the path.
For the foundation skill.
The foundational skill is ropes.
Yes.
Rope and hazmat.
Yes, sir.
You say I know a lot, I know a little, but I'm the chair of NFPA 610. And all the JPRs allow for challenge to the system. So you can run pilot programs, shortened academic times, all right, and then actual accomplishment of challenging the skill set to put your instructor pool at the inception in the right place. So they're within the JPRs on the NFPA curriculums, and especially in particular, you're right about rope ops as a minimum standard moving forward as you go into chapters 6 through what is like 16 now. It's there. So maybe experience has yielded how to bring on an instructor core group with an identical set of, matched disciplines.
If there's no further discussion, we'll move into new business. And I know, as you said earlier, historically, we're gonna be back at some of these. It'd be nice to fill the can up and finish some of these at some point. I agree with you on that. Always a moving target. So, TPAC has got a nearest course. It looks like all of it's there. I don't think there's any need to debate that one, you know. C solutions, the next one on there, there's, I lost count. A couple of problems, and I don't know if anybody's here from C solution. I do think they met with the office staff.
What agenda are you working on?
Well, there's C solutions, their business.
Yeah, I didn't see the feedback.
Oh, it's in there. It may have rolled out, but they've got a course.
No, so what happened with the TPAC course is we pulled that out of there because it doesn't lead to a certification. It's just a general course.
Okay.
Right, there's no need for the commission to put it on.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it was.
So I can do that one then.
Yeah, I was, basically, I just wanted to see if you guys were reading it.
Well, I read the old agenda. But the C solutions, it's quite lengthy, and I'm just gonna identify two things that jump out at me. We don't do 45-minute class, even though they're given an hour credit, they say the length of the course is 45 minutes. I believe we have an hour requirement.
Yes.
So, okay, so that's one they actually gave us time. Here's one that's 45 minutes and 17 seconds. They gave us an hour. They're given an hour credit in their system, whatever their system is. Here's one that's 56 minutes and 42 seconds, and they gave an hour and a half credit, which I would never vote for personally. And I know I'm one vote. I'm just trying to streamline some of this. Then the rest of these, here's one that's 1 hour and 7 minutes. It's an hour and a half. 1 hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours. I'm good with I actually like the ones that have a time, because then we could say, well, that's an hour. I can live with that. But then the rest of them are, when you get past number 10 or 11, it goes to words. They did a word count in WordPerfect that I don't know how to equate that. Let's see, there's a lot of classes here.
I think there's 22 programs.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, 22 programs are under an hour or having.
Yeah, the word count of 8638 tells me nothing. And then the word count of 10,882 words. For one, it's everybody that's up here doesn't get paid. This is a voluntary activity. But we got to take the time to filter through. That's not respectful for this board's time, in my opinion. And again, I'm old and crotchety now. I get it. I'll go ahead. I'm the old guy now. I don't know what happened. I used to be the kid. I started these meetings 30 years ago. I can't work off of 10,882 words, 9,628 words. I mean, they just let the computers count the words for them. That doesn't really tell me anything. The Lord, we're gonna kick, I mean, I know we vote tomorrow, but I'm one of 8 votes today. I can't, it just frustrates me when I sit there and read that.
So I could speak on the ones that have a 45-minute time limit, what have you. What they asked was that at the time of the test, can be included into that course. And I told them I don't have the authority to say yes or no on that. And basically that we would present it to you all and see what you felt, but.
Well, historically, even in salary, in service, we allowed an hour test, equivalent to 40 hours, 50 years. I'm not saying wouldn't, but word counts ain't helping.
Right.
That's just my opinion. I don't know what the will of the board is, but I found it frustrating. If you dove through all that, what does 10,000 words mean? They didn't even proofread their own work. They wouldn't have sent it in. I hope they wouldn't have sent it in. We don't have to stay on this all day. It's a voting item tomorrow.
We want to separate them out, to approve the ones for being an hour.
Very good.
Now, I've got it written down.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, we could. I mean, those, and I don't know if the audience realizes, these approvals are gonna be, at least the way I read it, are null and void once you don't have to submit a program anymore. Only thing we're concerned with is what leads to certification. Firefighter 1 and 2 classes, fire officer 1 classes, fire instructor. These little hour classes you're not gonna be submitting these anymore. So they don't really, it won't do them any good to get us to approve them because we're not gonna look at it per se. Because we don't look at your class, if you're saying you're teaching ladders before, we don't dissect it when we're doing audits. Because audits are gonna look different after this too. This is probably the end of the line of these, depending on when Mary Beth thinks they'll actually become final. I mean, for those of you who haven't been keeping up, but the mere fact that you're here, you probably know. Our goal is that for 2027, you don't have to submit a program. That's what we're targeting with these rules, moving these rules out to its own rulemaking hearing from chapters 2, 3, and 4. They're next. So our goal is that you don't have to submit a program next year. To try to streamline that process for you and for the office. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's been February, it's really cool. There, what, I mean, firefighting for approval. And I'll, before like.
Well, that's vector, we're coming to them. Oh, so you did too? Okay.
They have them.
Well, I think they met with the director.
Yeah, we met with them and we told them that what was required, for the existing. And basically it's a point where they sent, what you have there, and I think what you're referencing, Chairman, is based on the agenda I have, those are all vector solutions.
No, that pile was all CE.
That's, we'll see, maybe a mistake on the agenda.
Now, Vector has its own pile.
There's 20-something.
Yes, and Vector did not put a word count on theirs. Just again, y'all have your vote tomorrow. Deal with it as it is an agenda item. And obviously Rome State will do it. They'll finally come to the altar for their vote. After 2 presentations.
If you don't mind, I'd like to speak on that.
Okay.
I'll tell you, with back and forth with Rome State on this, I think fundamentally they have a great product that they're presenting. They went back and after some further discussion, they incorporated, the fact that HMA and HMO is a prerequisite for firefighter and firefighter 2. I can tell you, as the director, just my review of it, I have no problem providing a recommendation that the commission would consider tomorrow during the business. Along with that, what really kind of solidified that for me was the fact that they provided 3 letters from their local departments that they have built a partnership with, which was my primary concern up front, because I knew that in order for them to incorporate the certifications into your degree program, either you went out and bought fire trucks and gear and all this stuff, and or either you establish a partnership, and that's a partnership combined with the curriculum that they have provided. I think it's something that the commission definitely needs to consider for approval, and something that will provide almost a template for maybe others down the road. So it's going to have a tremendous impact, especially to firefighters within the community, especially for the volunteer side. So that's my piece.
Any other thoughts on Rome State?
I do. I am not trying to roadblock in meetings. Something we have talked about in a couple of meetings has been firefighter 1 certification and requiring that 240 hours. Before we approve this, they need to know whether or not they have to do that is this body going to require that 240 hours after the basic firefighter? Or are we going to continue doing basic firefighter and allow them to move in testing for fire one? It's not fair to this program. We're going to set all this up, put this program together, and change the rules on it.
I'm confused on 200.
Well, I think, yeah, well, I know, I think we gotta be careful. We had this, especially through PEIP. Putting hours on it is dangerous because the 64-hour was never a 64-hour. We just, through history, we started calling it that. It's not what the law says. The law says you'll meet these JPRs. And for a recruit, let's just say for firefighter one, who knows how many hours it takes to get. There's nowhere in NFPA that says you must have 240 hours to take firefighter one. It says you must complete all 96 JPRs. So is that 96 hours? Is that 200 hours? I think I want to start being more careful with using a number. Now, where the debate came up a few months ago, several meetings back, we were allowing people to take firefighter one that had the 64, 16 and live burn. And that's roughly 100 hours. Does that meet all the JPRs? That's where we gotta be careful, right?
But once again, 64 is a cultural thing.
Cultural thing. It's not in the law.
It's not.
It's basic.
64 is cultural. We call it 64 because that's what we have trained ourselves to call.
And we call it 240 because it's 6 weeks. 6 times 40 is 240. But I know.
The Academy does 10 weeks, which is 400. So are we calling it 400?
You're getting your 240 from ISO. ISO says that
You
you
have
have
that
to
much
have
training.
240 hours for your entry level firefighter. That's where you're getting your 240 from.
I think if they're meeting the JPRs, I want to be careful about holding somebody to, because Franklin does 20 weeks now, because they incorporate car seat into their rookie school, EMR into their rookie, they've gone way out there.
So the law actually states, we talked about this last meeting, and I've had a couple of conversations with the academy and Jason. The academy approved curriculum or equivalent. And as I brought up last commission meeting, I can't create a new curriculum by January 1 until the academy does. I'm not trying to speak for him. You set a goal for July for the academy to roll that out. So if we've got changes, that needs to be stated before the academy builds this new curriculum that we've been mandated by January 1 to do. Now, he's probably not doing 64 hours for what we're talking. We'll have to meet the objectives. I'll let him speak on that. We have to wait for the academy.
On 64. Not
Yes.
basic.
We thought you mean.
The firefighter one academies are varied across the state, but they don't, again, I think the 240 is culture. Because ISO says you'll have it, and a lot of people do the 6-week academy, 60 times 4, 24. So yeah, I would think that's in a cultural basic.
It is. It's harder, you guys.
Yeah, preschool and kindergarten.
Basic.
That is clear.
We think both of them are probably gonna lengthen a little bit.
And most people are already teaching more.
16-hour class.
Intro.
30 hours.
Intro, basic.
I'm sorry, my intro class at Fayette County is almost 30 hours.
Yeah. Because you're the AHJ and that's what you're comfortable letting someone, the intent was to have some basic understanding before you put them in a live fire situation. Was what the law was. Because some weren't doing anything. Of course, then 30 counties opted out.
Right. Yeah. Can we get the microphone? This is informational.
It's your lunch hour.
I know. So, David Dorsey, again. For your information, I have talked with the academy, and my goal for the Farm Association is one problem we have is all these new training officers across state get appointed don't know how to do this. They reach out to all of us. So if the academy does not present and say, here's our curriculum, JPRs, everything, I can't share the PowerPoints. But if they don't, the Farm Association is going to create programs. And I would like to get it approved statewide so that any department can go to our website, download schedules, JPRs, forms, and say, we're gonna use the approved fire association program like we used to do years ago.
So back to your question for them. Rough, I mean, I'm just rough estimate. If it's a 4-semester program, or long, I call it long semesters, 16 semesters, they should, let's say they go to class 40 hours. They will have just no practical, because that's gonna be outside the school, that will be at Chief Solomon's. They're gonna have 160 hours, they use that, they're gonna have training in JPRs. It's easier in our heads to do hours, but
We will meet all
the JPRs.
It's a, you know, it's for interest and witness to Basil. So from what I've seen from what they have proposed, the fact that they are encompassing the credit hour requirements for each of those courses greatly exceeds what most folks would just sit training. So that's why I feel very strong with the 5
It's a learning curve, especially for us older dogs. Been here from the beginning of these laws.
Chairman, I'm not sure if it's on your agenda, but I do. It looks like the last thing I have on my agenda is just the audits.
Yeah, I called Laura about that, because that's what everybody comes to the meeting for. But we also have Vector Solutions, I believe in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and your agenda may be wrong here.
Yeah, we may all do that. What audits was not on any agenda.
we had a lot of stuff that came in there at the last minute that we're trying to, so.
But from Vector Solutions, only thing I would ask, Laura to look at, in 6 and 7, they duplicated, they put them in twice. Maybe they were trying to rush at the end. We don't need the same class twice.
Yeah, I think.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are duplicated in 6 and 7. They're what you've numbered 6 and 7. So we don't need to approve them twice whenever we do approve it.
The other question I have is, going back to the agenda for CE. On the agenda, it just says fire class, but there's 36 individual classes in the folder.
Well, they tried to send more.
Is that one package or is that individual package?
That was one package that they sent.
So it's one class that they're, and that's just everything that's included in that class.
No, I would think they do individual. Everything's in that, you sign up and pay by class. I've used them for EMS.
Right.
For EMS, they're with EMS.
And I guess that's what the clarification is. Is this fire class that includes all of this? Or is this, hey, we're passing it as a fire class with 36 classes, individual?
Eric, we met with them. That was just one class.
Vector Solutions is the agency we met.
No, that's not the,
Back to CE.
yeah.
Back
We
to
met
CE.
with Vector though, we did not.
No, we met with CE.
We met with somebody.
Because normally they do 1 hour blocks. You pay a fee to do so many classes in a quarter, 6 months or a year. Pays a lot for investment. So is it one class or is it 36 classes?
Yeah, that's,
There's one class.
That's really messed up. And we have to deny the whole thing because you talked about batching the ones that did have.
well, no, but if this is one class, that's the curriculum, then it just incorporates those 36 class, individual classes.
Yeah.
But if it's 36 individual classes, then that's when we have to look at the batch. But on the agenda, it has it as one class.
Well, I don't know. How many classes.
The total.
It's
Yeah, it's just been a lot. But Vector Solutions, other than, everything was better on Vectors. So we had correlation sheets, because they resubmitted from the last meeting, they did not. They resubmitted some. So I think, I didn't find anything other than the duplication that would throw Vector out. Somebody else may have read something different. I just didn't want her to approve the class twice, the list to get long enough. Because they have more to submit too, right? Okay, so we still have some people that checked that they wish to speak. David's spoken, so.
Where are we at?
We're in effect.
I need to refill my audits.
Oh, the audits.
And then we need to talk about the new business that's gonna be added.
Rawlins Creek and Hardin County.
Maybe not be good.
John Leonard signed up to speak as well, but we may want to wait till tomorrow. If he's still on. I should have the list, though.
I have the list.
You have the list.
I have the list.
That's top secret.
Well, I'm gonna brief you all the list. Now, this list, so just be fully transparent, first of all. I wasn't aware that we do this at this meeting every year, so now I know that. And then, there was some internal, disconnects on who was supposed to be tracking it, but we have since figured that out. And so moving forward, it shouldn't, but we have vetted the list that we have, so we're all ready.
You want
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
And that list was created to try to make this more efficient. Because we had departments that had gone 6 or 7 years.
We're getting done back to back.
Back to back to back.
Yeah. This list will be for those, from 2025, right? Right. And then we'll also include the first year.
And y'all are doing the volunteers as you go.
Correct.
100% basically.
100%. That's the reason why we do volunteers last, and we'll.
It should be down to public comments. We're just adding that by tomorrow.
Do we not want to discuss it today?
Well, I think, wait. I'm interpreting, I guess, different from the office necessarily. Well, no, they interpret the same. They met the TCAC 124. 112 says if they were a member before 2009, they were exempt.
That's for the fire and the certificate, for the educational incentive pay, they're not, it's not, it's an option. This individual never tested their firefighter one.
But he doesn't have to, under the training standard, they don't have to.
Right, but if he wants to be in the educational pay program. It's not the program then, just be
That's where the confusion lies, is because you're exactly right, per the statute, there's an exemption in there, but for the program has been briefed to me, is that in order to be eligible for the program, it's the intent behind what was encompassed in the last rule change was to incentivize professional development. And they did not get firefighter one higher, then they weren't out.
Not until this rule comes along.
So basically, what happened is, what I questioned was the very title of the paragraph, entry level personnel. Initially, right, that'll catch them in 26.
If we were never from 127 to 2024, we're 4, you're not perfect. And so you guys have always said that the rule is 3 years from your date of hire, or 3 years from the date your department hired.
And so what was explained to me was that entry level, it's called entry level personnel, right? So initially, my thought was like, this isn't even applicable to them because they're not entry level personnel. Right? I interpret that entry level personnel as they do firefighting, right? But the legal opinion that I've received is that no intent of entry level personnel is new firefighter and existing firefighters that never progressed to firefighter.
The problem with this,
These two gentlemen.
with this waiver is it's not in our purview to waive. There's only two things we can waive, the missed submission date and something else. It's the chapter 7.
It's like the October 1st deadline and,
First,
but yeah, under the current rule, it's the same problem that we had last year when people didn't have their 16. It's just that once that December 31st payment will deadline. There will be done under this rule. So it works with it.
we don't want anybody to fall out. That's why we've got this new rule packet.
Well, it's still like for, over there, speed, it came all the way.
I understand, I do too, but
I think there's.
the problem is statutorily it can. Okay. Well, no, I don't understand that.
A goal was attained.
It'll be on the agenda tomorrow. And y'all can vote.
But if he's not able to make it tomorrow, can you speak today?
Who's here? It's up to you guys.
At first. To that date, which is 60 months from July 1st, 2021. Tell me what I'm misreading.
It would be next year.
21, maybe this year, 26.
So we're using 60.
This
That's ours.
in the rule.
We changed
It
it.
was revised in September 2023.
That's why I kept saying it's 60 months. This was, if 6 year was gonna be the year that was gonna spread everybody out.
That's why
This year, this year,
that's why we're fixing it.
and that's why we're fixing it this year.
Last year, live fire caught everybody.
Yes, everybody. I had several people.
Yeah,
They got-
16, the 64, there were tons of people that got screwed.
Okay, so.
As well as this year, too.
Level. A volunteer firefighter must complete firefighter 1 hazardous materials awareness, hazardous materials operation certification levels by the end of the calendar year in which the volunteer applicant reaches his or her 60th month of service with a recognized department or within the firefighter's 60th month after July 1st, 2024.
Okay, and so then these individuals, do they have live burn within 10 years looking back? So from 2000, they would need a live burn from 2011 or newer to be eligible.
So this is the problem with the rule, right? We have bound ourselves by policy pretty bad here to where we, even as a commission, who adopt the rules, have a hard time interpreting. So that's why I lean towards the legal opinion that I received, and not personally.
But you're right, the firefighter 1, but you don't get 6 months, the 36 months is the library. So they would have to have.
Which the live burn was fixed at 10 years.
10 years looking back. So. 10 years.
That was authority, had an increase, you can make that exemption. but
These gentlemen. We can go ahead and let him speak.
I'll wait. Because I'm gonna be on the next person.
They have a lot.
If the live burn credit that they received is from the old basic firefighter 3 course, which we have validated that course at that time encompassed the live burn training. But that's the last time they received that live burn. They show proof of that.
Hey, Morrison, these two gentlemen aren't gonna be fighting fire, they're like me. I'll get the water in the scene.
Well, that is,
Let's introduce yourselves. We have them.
yes, I'm Assistant Chief John Lanier of the Walden's Creek Fire Department. I'm one of 2 full-time personnel employed by the Walden's Creek Fire Department, and I'm also the Chief Training Officer, so I administer the Education Incentive Plan for our department. Just some background, we have participated Walden's Creek in the EIP program since it was opened up to volunteer departments. At that time, we were strictly volunteer and had not transitioned to a combination department. As a matter of fact, for several years, we were the only department in the county besides the cities that participated out of the 13 departments. Most years, our education incentive plan exceeds 100 hours that we require, and we do require the 400 hours of training for our entry-level firefighters. We believe that the credentialing that the commission provides is critical to our firefighters' training and their progression through their career. So much so that out of 27 active firefighters, 90% of them are Fire 1 or higher. Chief Baker has been a firefighter since 1987. And to correct something there, he actually still actively certifies, fit tests every year, and he does actively go an interior firefight and maintain all of his certifications. We actually believe that our support of credentialing is one of the main reasons that we're one of the few combination departments in this state to achieve an ISO 3 rating. Chief Baker did complete his basic Fire 1 and Fire 2 in the 1980s and his Fire 3 life checkoff in 1989 in Murfreesboro. When the commission first came around, and I learned some history about this from Deputy Chief Schuler, who many of you probably know. He's the deputy chief at our department as well as the deputy chief in Sevierville. And apparently when they transitioned to the credentialing process, people who had taken the old basic fire course could sit for their Fire 1. So Walden's Creek signed up for that. I believe, I'm not sure what year this was, but the person the commission sent to test us was a no-show. And I guess there was a very slim period where they were going to allow people grandfathered in under the old training to sit for their Fire 1. When we contacted the commission, we were told, well, we can't schedule you now. We're sorry, that period is over. So unfortunately, Chief Baker was locked out of the process unless he wanted to start his basic fire training all over again. He works for Roddy Vending in Knoxville. It just wasn't feasible for him. And in his 58 years old right now, it's just not something he's going to do at this point. He was the 2024 Fire Chief of the Year for the state of Tennessee and was recognized by the state legislature and the governor for his contributions in both training and firefighting. We were caught last week by surprise when I was notified that he was ineligible for the EIP, which is what started this process to speak to the commission. Chief Baker's not so much worried about, yes, he's participated in the program. He would like to get his $600, but more, he wants to make sure people are continued and encouraged to participate in these programs and to participate in credentialing. And by just having someone thrown out of the program when I go to apply for his money. So I spoke to Michael Miranda and he said it was okay to use his name at this meeting. He wanted to be here, but he was unable to. When I went to the class to learn about the program, when we first participated in the program, there was an exemption that all firefighters entry level from if they were employed prior to December 31st, 1990, they were exempt from the 1664 and live fire. However, somewhere, he even pulled up his old slideshows. It's what he taught in his update. Somehow in the last couple of years, that disappeared. I've spoke to a couple of commissioners and they said, yeah, that rule disappeared somewhere. We were never briefed about it. It was never something that I saw in any of the emails I got or notices from the commission. And apparently that's where he's been dropped out. So that's why we were asking for this waiver. Cause he can't get to Fire One. He can't, he's unable to test for it unless he sits through another 1664 and all of that. And as far as his Fire One checkoffs for live burn, he regularly participates at our local academy as one of the instructors to help teach and run recruits through it, also with certified 1403 instructors. So.
There is no grandfather clause. You will put a grandfather statute for you.
Quick question. When was the last time he participated as an instructor at 1403?
This last year, he does it every year, and every live fire I have for my fire department, he participates.
Yeah, so he deserves live fire credit for that. You're right. Yes.
Why would he not?
No, it would.
He would, because he performed,
My question is, why would he not?
because the intent of live fire training is to perform the position that you normally perform daily,
And
right?
if he's instructing it,
And if he's instructing it, then he should, in my opinion, absolutely get credit for that live fire. Now, that's new information that just came out.
I mean, I can provide the rosters that show where he was there and active. Hell, I've got pictures of it.
This whole thing to be supposed, I wrote the curriculum for the first 1403 class, but I'm not 1403, so I'm taught at the academy, but I'm not.
So here's my question. If he can provide the roster that shows that he was actively participating as an instructor in this training, in live fire training, is that sufficient to get this cleared up?
yes, because it is, that's him performing the live fire that is being taught to.
You instruct your role.
Good.
But I can only speak to my experience, right? And I can tell you, anytime I was an instructor for live fire training, received credit for live fire training, right? I think that's industry practice. And so if I would definitely defer to legal counsel for making sure that we are meeting the intent of the rule, because I don't think anybody wants to break the law here, but right now, the limit due to the fact that he has not progressed to firefighter one via an accredited certification, we have validated that he met the exemption of the statute for the minimum training requirements, right? And that he has produced the certifications for that, and the same with the other individual. It was the live burn piece that was holding us up.
So your rule live burn practical examination completion says that successful completion of business environments
We do 3 to 4 times a year.
burn course shall be completed and attached with the application for an examination. Successful completion of the live burn objectives in NFP 1001 during the live burn training shall, okay, so one of the following. A live burn practical examination shall be completed in the following. Section 2, successful completion of the live burn objectives in 1001 during live burn training. So if you feel like, if the commission, I'm not a subject matter expert, if the commission feels like as the instructor, they're hitting those NFPAs, then I think it would be within the administrative duties of our office to get him the proper paperwork to show that he has it.
They do multiple burns a year.
Yeah, our department generally has 3 to 4 live burns a year that we do. As a matter of fact, some of those live burns he instructed were when Chief Speck was our academy instructor for the county. He used to come up there during the live burn checkoffs and was one of the chiefs that would participate and instruct. So I can definitely produce that paperwork.
just real quick, we've had these conversations over and over too. There is a rule that states instructors do not get credit for a live burn practical that this commission keeps confusing with live burn training. Years ago, instead of doing all of the objectives, and this is all the way back to Terry Woody, there was a practical where commission could come in, take 2 skills, and we do live fire practicals, and we're done. And we've argued that live fire training is not that practical. So a lot of previous employees of the commission would not give instructors credit for that based on that quote, which was misinterpreted.
I guess my question is the intent of the live fire practical, does that coincide with that needing to do a live fire practical as a prerequisite for firefighter 1? And then from there, it's live fire training. And continue at a minute.
It's like always training.
Yeah. Why would we have somebody
Every
do it
10
entire
years.
school?
Whereas.
The reason why we have them do it practical initially is part of the prerequisite for the fire.
And here it says, fire service personnel who serve as evaluators at commission-sponsored practical or live burn practical examinations shall receive 4 hours specialized training credit for each practical where the firefighter serves as an evaluator up to a maximum of 2 practicals per calendar year for a maximum of 8 credit hours. In-house practical live burn examinations do not qualify. But if he's been doing it at your live burn, then it would because it's not his. His training substitution form shall be submitted per evaluator of the year for dates he has served as an evaluator. So he couldn't get the credit for his own department, but he could get it for
Someone else.
Superior County.
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
Why not for his own?
Because every other class I teach in my department, I get credit for teaching that class.
This is under live burn. In-house practical live burn examinations do not qualify.
But he's not doing examination.
Those aren't
He's just
practicals.
doing training.
Those are training classes. That's where a lot of the commission employees would not give the instructor the credit because they consider it
That's
practical.
piece that you were talking about.
Yes.
But the other thing to be careful of, the thing that's required in those departments, it's 2 days. There's 5 different scenarios. There's car fire, there's wildland fire. A live burn certification is not just a structure fire. If there are 5, if I'm checking a newbie off, there's 5, and then there's 3 more in fire 2.
Car fire.
Or fire 2, there's.
We all follow the verification sheets.
Yeah, it has to be, 1403. It's gotta be, I think TPAC has to approve it. I think be an instructor for a lot, you have to be at least instructor 1.
It's just loopholes.
There's more loopholes. If we said he had a bird for every action, what's the Hardin County story? We've got 2 waivers.
Yes,
here.
I was gonna get to that next.
We got 2 waivers here. We can't prove one and ditch the other. I mean, we're
No,
really
we-
careful here. So Hardin County did not request that they come in front of the commission the way Walnut Creek did. However, I lumped them into it due to the fact that the scenario was the same, with the exception of the live fire piece that we recently found out. Now, I can't speak. I don't think there's anybody from Hardin County here. Well, Melvin should be. But anyhow, what I'm getting at is everything else in regards to the Hardin County member is the same. The only question we have is the live fire vote.
I think it'd be justified under the rules. However, I think it's really gonna be up to you guys what, that's not a subject matter expert, so I think tell you this was the, in the, right, JPR or whatever, so whatever the form looks like, between Eric and the commission, y'all are just gonna have to kind of use your critical eye and decide what the site is. I think it should be justified.
Yeah.
I just think there's an interpretation.
It's a little limbo.
This is a small demographic part that over time through attrition.
discussion.
And that's what
When you
was
reach
discussed.
the big-
That way we can get them
Oh, I
paid for
agree.
this.
I
last
agree.
year.
I agree.
I know that it was very evident that the governor's office gets as much participation in this. I don't want to see the numbers.
Provided that the live burn verification could be submitted along with the resubmission of the application for payment.
So the fiscal year is not over, so they still have 30 days within their submission to that.
I'll say from administrative side, once you, if you guys just vote on this tomorrow, we believe it makes sense and we'll make sure that it's processed. And so.
I think can we reach out to Hardin County and see if he's participating in training?
Are we ready? Josh, I don't know if you have a line of communication with them. Hardin County. Yes. We can just help out. See if this is. There's a lot more.
Thank doors. Hey, what are the deep? What are the details?
Those are the last.
David on the phone at the moment now.
Yeah, I can see. One time. Want to do it tomorrow?
Yeah, so far you've answered all my questions.
That's rare.
I know.
Commissioner Bob, Commissioner Henry texted and said, just FYI, I am listening to the meeting as I am in a NFA officer development class at our PSC, but we'll be at the meeting tomorrow. In response to the HMA and HMO test bank statements, it was myself, Coordinator Ratley, and training chiefs or training captains from Middle Tennessee and FFDTC. There you go. Todd Ratley can say what book we validated the test bank with. If it was fourth or fifth, and if we did not do the fifth edition, then we need to validate that one too.
I think everybody's stopping to speak.
Those books are in the director's office, by the way. Just throwing that out.
Let's fill in, just talked to the chief for Hardin County. His individuals not got firefighter one, went through all the old training, live fire in 92, I believe is the date he gave me.
With no fire training system.
He'll be here in the morning.
Future meeting. Calendar. When there, that's it. May, we talked about it's time to revive. It's time to revive the rules committee, subcommittee again.
Yep.
Now we gotta be careful because there's another set of packet that we're going to public hearing before this year's up, right?
Before this year's up, I feel like I can say that. I don't.
We can't really make any changes to those now because they're in review.
We're in that space we are with this one, we're making small edits just to make sure the AP. That being said, it's in internal review now. This process, this chapter for internal review took 2 months, but I don't want to promise that next week it will be mine for the month. I'd say more like October for that.
So we said we don't really care to. Tennessee Fire Chiefs. It's like
29th.
Yeah, the NC, yes, it's July 31st through August 4th.
But we said we didn't necessarily have to synchronize with that. And we've been west in February to Jackson, we've been east. I don't think there's much appetite for Kingsport and October. Same difference.
We don't have a problem here.
It's the will of the commission, and the director of it. We had started a process where we were gonna meet more than more often than less often. Doesn't mean we gotta meet every month either. So, once we've met the intent, we have to meet in each grand division once, then it's open. And we have met, we've met in all grand divisions for this county.
No, I think we have to meet in the middle. Yes, we need to.
Why does Tennessee keep the
So
Thursday
late.
through Tuesday?
It's well, because it's always been on the weekend because of the 2-day class. To get the volunteers to come to the free day at the exhibits on Sunday. The actual meat of the meeting is Monday, Tuesday, because the banquet's Tuesday night. The weekend is usually a 16-hour class that TPACA puts on. Food. And then, the exhibits open Sunday again, it's free to volunteers on that Sunday.
I tell you, so think we've established a good rapport to where, hey, there's a need for us to meet earlier, and we have done that. So, I mean, I can continue to do that if there's something that comes up and I feel like, hey, we need to get together. If you guys are pleased with that, we can continue. It's tied into the Tennessee Fire Chiefs annual conference that's happening in a month. If you guys are okay with that, I mean, and that's taking everybody's time and into respect as well.
To wait all the way to August.
My hope. So August would put us first or second week of August.
Those that are going, FRI is the 12th through the 15th in Kansas City. So, Roger.
Who are we looking? TPACA or?
It can be in. I know Mount Juliet just opened a new fire station. He invited us. He has a large training room. Texted him.
And you could also say, hey, Frank,
No, you can't. No.
Parking.
Parking.
We have here than you guys. How about small parcel too? Yeah, parcel. Yeah, that's enough.
So you want to say like maybe, when's the Tuesday?
It's Monday or Tuesday, the second? Yeah, third and fourth. In Nash or Murfreesboro.
The 10th and 11th workshop in the afternoon on the 10th. 9 a.m. meeting.
Location to be determined.
And we use offered, no.
So 11 falls Tuesday of the month, which a lot of people have board meetings.
I got an email this morning.
I'm just saying.
What about
Now 17th, 18th,
Next week.
August 17th and 18th.
So Mount Juliet. TBD.
so 1 p.m. 17th? 18th meeting?
we want to bring some of this back to virtual.
Virtual. Travis has to travel, so we might do that like in Cook or something.
They don't have to be connected to the.
No, that's football, that guys, state rate right there, on the other side of the interstate.
We don't have to connect those to the commission meetings, just, maybe on the agenda, on that virtual steps.
I mean, if we want to start that subcommittee, we can start that. But no, not that. We'll pick a meeting. It just needs what, 2 weeks notice? And some kind of football's more convenient. People that are on that committee. Yeah. Yeah, Travis. Very nice.
They've got a Starbucks that's just excellent.
Excellent. On the interstate drive. Anything else for the good of the order?
Is it too late to ask a comment?
You did sign up. Go ahead.
According to my understanding, we can request a test event now and submit everything up to 5 days before the test event, correct?
Okay, yes, I'll speak to that. Thank you. For bringing that up. Because I thought I escaped Chief Scott bringing that up, but yes. Yes, the intent there is that the 5-day cutoff, you have all the way up till the 5th business day prior, or 5th day prior, to that register, or to that event. Now, what we are doing is we have an internal policy to where 10 days out, we're gonna start going in there and checking, right? And then if a person is missing a prerequisite, what have you, enforcement police certificate, then we're gonna deny it and have basically 5 days to get it right. Now, on that 5th day, once this is in rule, on that 5th day, we are gonna have to start forwarding to that 5th day. Because we have given ourselves less time on our end. We have 2 people that process these. So if you don't make that cutoff, you don't make the cutoff. That's why we implemented our internal processes, because we didn't want to wait till the 5th day before we looked at it the first time, right? That's not fair to you all. Yes, that is.
Okay. So I'm gonna take you back a year ago in Jackson. Different director, probably new headache for you. Is that same gonna be held to recruit classes where we do just like the academy, we teach it, practical tests all within the same group of periods. And same thing we do for firefighter 1. Because my entire test event for the 21st just got canceled. We haven't started hazmat next Monday yet. So we're gonna do our practicals, has already been approved, on the 20th. I don't have rosters turning to taking the class yet, because we haven't started the class yet, and everybody just got canceled. And we had this problem a year ago, and they didn't want to let us reapply and start it. They want us to, the office thinks that I should have my hazmat this week, wait 2 weeks and take practicals, then wait 2 more weeks to take the test, so that everything be done on a timely fashion.
So
That's
if
been a
it's related,
statewide problem right now.
if it's related to a class,
I even in my notes on the bottom of the
they are not
registration for
supposed
each
to be
individual
canceled.
copied. This is our schedule.
That same thing happened in last week.
And we talked about it.
But rather than an
And I'm
email,
staying quiet on mine.
rather than an email, I've got to
Because
go
I
back
had
and re-register every applicant now.
That's not that. What can you already tell them?
All right, well, past lunch, thank y'all for the indulgence. Goal is to make it is to make it better. Remember, we're from the government. They're slowly, these new rules are gonna be, to me, monumental for the train officers. It's not having to fill that silly package out. Anyways, motion for adjournment. Motion. Okay, all in favor, say aye or.
I'm done. Hang on.
I do.